Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Welcome to Money in the Morning. So good to see everybody. It is a Monday morning. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling awfully black. I'm feeling wealthy, even though even though the stock market's not agreeing with me. The stock market's kind of giving us a hard time today, but that's neither here nor there. There are ways to benefit from every economic situation. So, so anyway, I hope everybody's doing well. I hope you had a good weekend. Tell me what you did this weekend. Let me know. Did anybody do anything interesting this weekend? I'd like to see that. All right. So let me do this. I'm gonna send out a text, and just so you know, and I'll mention this again, just so people that come in later will know this. I send out the link to. I stream this class out to various a different YouTube channel each day, and so when I send you the link and I say join us in class. That link will take you to the YouTube channel. And the reason I do that is because I know some of you may get in a few minutes later and you'd like to see the whole thing. And even though being in the private Zoom is better, because you can get your questions answered and stuff like that. It's sometimes easier to go to the YouTube channel if you want to watch it later or something like that. Now, if you want to watch everything all together later, like if you want to just check out, I think we've done about 500 trainings in this class. We started at the beginning of 2024, and we have gone almost every single day since then. So I'm gonna guess that's about 500 days, something like that. So if you want to see them all, there's a class in the Black Business School where everything's housed. I can't remember the URL though. I gotta go find it, and I'll send it to you guys and give you a discount if you want to go and get access to everything. So anyway, so first thing that's interesting right now is that the stock market is kind of crashing today. So today's kind of an interesting day in the stock market. As you guys know, I'm a dip buyer. I always talk about buying the dip. And so that's going to be fun to discuss tomorrow when we go through the stock market breakdown and everything else. In case you want to know what I'm buying, I bought some shares of Robinhood and Tesla. Tesla is all the experts I've been sort of consulting with and paying attention to love Tesla. They think that they have just such a huge advantage, and if you can get past the politics, again, if you don't like Elon Musk, I get it, whatever, it's up to you. But if you don't care, you want to just go get the money and be where the money's at, there's a lot of indication to say Tesla has a lot of upside, and that this down cycle is a great opportunity to own it. No guarantees. This is a long-term play, but this is where I'm putting a lot of my money. All right. So anyway, I'm sending out the text message for you guys now. It'll usually just say something real simple. Dr. Boyce Money in the Morning is starting now. Also, don't forget that Dr. Alicia is doing her Mental Health Monday tonight at 8:30. I think she's going to talk about chakras. She's really into chakras and stuff. And so if that's your thing, then you can come along. If you want to join Dr. Alicia, get notifications when she does things, just pull out your phone, text the word love to the number 87948. So text love to 87948. And Dr. Alicia will notify you when she's about to do her thing. All right, so I want to ask you all a question really quickly. Give me a yes or no in the chat. How many of you believe that men that at least half of all men are uncomfortable or feel awkward when a woman is doing better than him financially? Give me a yes in the chat if you think that this is the case. Give me a no if you think that this is all a bunch of fake news and a bunch of BS. And the reason I ask that is because I'm going to show you guys a video that I just saw. I put it on my Instagram. My Instagram is Dr. Boyce Finance. And on Dr. Boyce Finance, I shared this video that I thought was really interesting. And it involves a podcast called Hardly Initiated. And the brothers who made the podcast actually came out of the Black Business School. I like these guys a lot. They're very nice people. And they're very good at what they do. And so I was a little bit thrown off by kind of, what I heard. Not to say that they were wrong or right. I just really thought that the comments were a little bit strange. Honestly, I'd love to talk to them and find out exactly what they meant. And because I know them personally, I maybe I'll just bring them in or something, or bring them on my podcast or something, because I feel like these conversations sometimes don't get the proper nurturing that they deserve. I don't think that they are dealt with in the way that they should be. I really would like to see them dealt with also with some degree of science attached, right? There's research out there on all these things in terms of, how do women feel if a man does this? How do men feel if a woman does that? And I probably, I guess, know these things because my wife is a researcher in this area, right? She's written research papers on these topics. She's taught classes on these topics. And if you learn what's out there, like if you learn the science of good relationships, which is actually connected to the science of good finances, right? We've talked about this, that stable families is one of the keys. That's one of the hacks to wealth, one of the big wealth hacks that a lot of people seem to forget. And I think it happens a lot when you're young because you think relationships are all about who's the cutest and who, where you can have the most sex and stuff like that. And people forget about the long-term implications of relationships, the long-term investment aspect, like the fact that when my mother was older and still wonderful, but not the hot, sexy young thing she was when my father met her. She was laying in her deathbed, dying of cancer, and my father was sitting right next to her because they made this commitment to each other and stuck to it, right? And I think that it's interesting to me that there are not enough young people getting mentored by older people who can show them the other side of life, right? Like I'm going to say this really quickly. If you have a young person in your family that wants to be successful, tell them to find at least three mentors over the age of 50. If they're under 30, they need three mentors over the age of 50 that can tell them what lies further down the road. And because if you tell me, if I'm in a car and you tell me what's further down the road, then I can decide which path I want to take. Because a lot of people are just driving blind. When you're paying attention to your favorite celebrity or you're listening to your goofy friends that don't know what's going on, you're gonna just get a lot of bad advice. And I can tell you, I learned a lot from listening to older people talk about on their deathbed, like, okay, what are your biggest regrets? Right. I learned a lot from those conversations. Like, okay, when you're on your deathbed and you're about to die and you know you're never going to go home again, what do you regret the most? And so I would encourage any person that wants to be smart, right? Not everybody wants to be smart. Some people want to go through life and just make one dumb decision after another, or they just want to wing it, or they feel like because they're black, they're supposed to screw their lives up, and then end up 50 years old saying, "Yeah, I used to be a knucklehead, but now I'm getting it together." But I get it, but sir, you're 52 years old. I wish you had made that decision when you were 25 or something. Then that way you wouldn't have to play catch up. I'm not making fun of you. I'm just saying that a lot of us have family members like that. I learned a lot. I'm gonna tell you the truth. I learned a lot from uncles. A lot of my uncles who made the biggest mistakes in their lives, I learned from them. It was like, well, don't do what I did. And I'm like, I'm taking notes. I'm not going to do anything that you did because right now you're in jail, or you're broke. You're not happy. Like your children don't respect you because of whatever you were doing for the last 20 years. And I just kind of feel like it's time for us to educate each other in a multitude of ways. Like for example, in the Black Business School, we have initiatives like the Black Wealth Ambassadors Program, things like that, where we're encouraging you, we're giving you resources and support to teach your own people, to teach yourselves, right? But also, I think the same thing should be true in relationships when it comes to mental and physical health as well, because we got too many young people that are miserable. We got too many young people. Tell me if you've seen this. Tell me if you've noticed how many young people are online, depression, anxiety, stressed out, don't know how to get by financially. Anybody seen that? Anybody see this is like a trend. I think it's like trendy to hate your life. Anybody else notice that? If you're under 30, there's like at least a 50% probability, maybe 70%, that you're just miserable, unhappy, pissed off, and broken. I don't want you to have to live your youth like that. You're 27, man. You're supposed to be having fun. Come on, girl. You're supposed to be happy right now. You're young and you're cute. You ain't gonna be cuter when you're 47. So, like you're not gonna have as many options when you get older. How in the hell can you waste your life hating your life? Hey, why is it so common to spend our youth? If you're young, in my opinion, and some of y'all got young people in your family, bring them into the class. Bring them in because so they can hear this. If you are young and you cannot find your happiness, I'm gonna give you a homework assignment right now. Your homework assignment is to go find it. Your homework assignment is to find it. I talked to my youngest about the inalienable rights. The inalienable rights are, finish it up for me. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of what? Type in the chat. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right? So I said to her, I said, well, we know what it means to have life. Some people, but really, some people are alive, but they're not really living. I said, but then also, liberty, we know what that kind of means. That's kind of freedom. But a lot of people don't have freedom because they don't know what freedom looks like. They claim they want power. They don't know what they. How the hell you gonna get power when you can't even define it? A lot of people can't even define what freedom is, and they like we want freedom. Okay, well, what is freedom? Oh no, like no, you got to know what it is in order to identify it when you see it. Some of y'all walk right past freedom and opportunity and wealth because you never took the time to meditate and define what that really means for you. But then the pursuit of happiness. I said, I told her, I said, look, I told, when she asked me what profession she should pick, I said, I don't care what profession you pick. I'm not here. I don't think you should define yourself by a job anyway. Um, I said, I just want you to be happy. And a lot of people out here are miserable. They hate their lives, and I don't want you to be one of those people. So happiness is something that must be pursued. It's not usually going to fall in your lap. You got to go find it. You got to go know what's going to make you happy. So I talked to a 22-year-old that I mentor, and I said, man, there is a science on happiness. Y'all, you do know that. You do know that Yale has a, how many of y'all knew that? That Yale has a whole class on happiness. Yale literally has a class on how to be happy. Did any of y'all know that? They literally because well, would they have a class on happiness? Well, because there's a science to it. There's like a way that happy people do things that unhappy people don't, and that makes a big difference. So ultimately, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness means that if you want to be happy, you got to kind of take that time to experience the knowledge of self, and then also get knowledge of the world, and then figure out where in the world I can go in order to find my happiness. So again, my advice to any young person that wants to be successful, and even any old person, is find somebody that's ahead of you that can explain to you what life looks like 20, 30 years down the line so you can make investments. I'm going to use that word investments repeatedly so that people who are confused don't think that we're not having a financial conversation. But the investments that will benefit you 20, 30 years down the line. Like I learned that investing in a good black woman at an early age meant that I learned from my father and my mother that if I invest in a good family when I'm young, that when I'm older, I have some high probability of having some people who give a damn when I'm laying on my deathbed in the old folks home. Do you understand? So your biggest investments are not in money, they are in people, but also even your financial investments. Hey, most of you who are over the age of 30 can remember a time where you probably kicked yourself when I told you that, if you just bought a couple $1,000s worth of Microsoft stock 25 years ago, you'd be loaded. If you bought a little bit of Apple stock back in the early 2000s, you'd be filthy rich right now. And it wasn't, again, it wasn't like Apple snuck up on you. You knew Apple was Apple back in 2002. You knew that even before the iPhone and all that. Apple was a big corporation. Everybody knew about Apple. They had a rivalry with Microsoft. So you could have bought just Apple and Microsoft and made a ton of money, but you weren't thinking down the line. You didn't sit down and meditate and say, gosh, I wonder what the year 2024 is going to be like, and I wonder what's going to matter to me at that time, and what things can I do right now that will, what investments can I make financially? What investments can I make in terms of people? What investments can I make in terms of my mental and physical health, such that in that year, I'm going to have a really great life. I'm going to really be in a good position. Because if you don't do that, if you don't plan ahead, then you won't. It's very difficult to find happiness if you try to get it at the last minute. It's like when I used to teach when I was on the faculty of Syracuse, I used to laugh when students would come in the day before the test and try to learn 30, learn 3 weeks worth of 4 weeks worth of material in 24 hours. I'm like, you're not gonna pass it. Oh my God, it's so hard. I've been working so hard. I stayed up all night. Stop crying to me. What are you crying about? You wasn't crying 2 weeks ago when I told you to start studying and you were chilling. You weren't crying back 3 weeks ago when you was going to the step show instead of doing your work. You weren't crying when your nerdy friend said, "Hey, let's go to the library," and you said, "Oh, girl, but you too serious. You always studying all the time." That you were fine back then. So why are you in my office crying right now? You're crying right now because you want to go back and you want to redo the past. You want to change that which you've already put in place. You want to recreate the destiny that you built for yourself. You chose to fail this test. You chose to not be prepared. And now that the consequences are coming knocking, because the devil always comes back and gets his ROI. He comes back and gets his return on investment. The devil will bless you, and then he's going to show up and ask for compensation. Well, now that you gotta pay the piper, by failing this test, you're all stressed out and sad about it. And you were a victim, but you were also the perpetrator. The previous you was the perpetrator. The current you was the victim. The old you abused the new you. The you from 3 weeks ago who didn't study, who didn't go to the library, who went to the step show instead of actually sitting down and doing the work, is abused you who's sitting in my office right now. You're crying because of what the younger version of you did to yourself. Do y'all understand what I'm saying? And this paradox can go in both directions. Both directions. So the question is, what are you going to do to your future self? Are you going to abuse your future self by not preparing? Are you going to abuse your future self by not investing? Are you going to abuse your future self by not making a plan? Or are you going to bless your future self? When you 5 years from now, you look back and you say, "Man, I'm so glad I made those decisions way back in 2025 because now my life is good. Now I'm driving something nice. Now I'm living in a mansion. Now I'm living my best life. I just quit my job. My life is better. I'm able to provide for my kids because I made a sacrifice." You cannot reap a harvest if you do not plant anything. If you you cannot you reap what you sow. If you sow no seeds, then you will have no harvest. And so some people are confused, like, why do I have a harvest? Everybody else is living good. Why ain't I got nothing? Well, the answer is right there inside of you. Ask yourself, 5 years ago, did I plant anything? Did I plant seeds? If you planted no seeds, then you get no harvest. Now, let me hop into this one topic I wanted to hit on. I saw this video this morning. I woke up. I'm kind of mad at myself. I'm usually in the 5 a.m. club, but I slept. I slept like I was dreaming and stuff, and I woke up at 8:20 or something, which is just downright pathetic. Normally I get up at 4:30 in the morning, but it's okay though. I'm gonna forgive myself and I'm gonna get back in that gym today. But here, let me share something with you. This video that I thought was really, really fascinating. And I put it on my Instagram, and my Instagram is Dr. Boyce Finance. And by the way, just as a reminder, what I'm gonna do also for those of you that are watching on the YouTube channel, I'm gonna give you all the link if you want to come into the Zoom. Let me see if I can grab this link. If you want to come into the Zoom, where like so that means if you put in a question, I'll see your question, stuff like that. I'll give you guys the link. I'm gonna put it in the chat of the YouTube channel for those of you that want to actually come into the Zoom. But just as a reminder, if I send out the reminder for class via text, I'm going to bring you to the YouTube channel because the YouTube channel is a place where the video will still be there, even if you come in a few minutes later, something like that. So anyway, all right, so here is the video. Let me see if I can pull this sucker up. It's basically a guy who is on a podcast called Hardly Initiated. It's a good podcast. And the guys who created the podcast, they came out of the Black Business School. So I ain't got nothing but love for these guys. And I, even if I don't understand why they say what they say, I still have a tremendous amount of respect for them. But I would love to talk to them because they really have to answer for what they were talking about in this particular podcast episode. I didn't quite understand it. And so let me see if I can pull this up. And this leads to a broader conversation about money and relationships and whether or not men should be or are or have any reason to be intimidated or concerned when a woman is doing well financially. So here, I'm going to try to share this. I'm going to hit share and I'm going to play this. Let me know. Give me a yes if you can hear this video. I'm going to play the video right now.
Look, she says, I got a good job. I make very, very good money. And she says, the only thing I need now is a man. It's like, yo, it's like, who wants you? Who wants you? You're right. Like, once you have achieved these things, you have unfortunately disqualified yourself.
Ooh,
and
shit.
And what it is these, and this is the thing. I'm not blaming
the women are going to hate him for that shit. They're going to hate him for that. I can't wait to put this shit out.
Number one, what does it mean for us to have all these conversations about what do you bring to the table? The woman say she bring everything and you say, I don't want you no more. What does it mean? Number two, women exceeding expectations and being all they can be is not a negation of your manhood or masculinity. If you feel that way, it is show that your shit is fragile. Number three, as a college professor, you know that studies showed that female college students will literally dim their light in order to appeal to their male counterparts because they recognize that men's fragile masculinity will make you where, man, I don't get to feel like a man if you know more than me.
Literally, she says, I got a good job. I make very, very.
Okay. All right. So let's stop right there. Y'all were able to hear it, right? Everybody's able to hear the video. All right. So Yeah, I gotta ask the guys in the podcast about that one. They're very nice guys, and again, they came out of the Black Business School. So if you're a Black Business School alum, I'm gonna love you no matter what, even when I whether agree with you or not. Um, Clearly, the comment was questionable, right? This idea that because you've accomplished these things, no one else will want you. And that right there is where that just that statement alone, that blanket statement is an incorrect statement. And the reason it's an incorrect statement is because when you're talking about a market, this is my thing. This is what I do. This is what economists study. All we do is we study markets all day. Dating is a market, just like the grocery store is a market, just like the job market is a market, just like the stock market is a market. And markets are moved by specific dynamics related to things like supply and demand, among others, right? So for someone to say no one wants you because of blank, well, that right there is wrong. That's going to be wrong in every single situation, any type of market, because what that is saying is that's like saying that if I have a company that lost $1 billion last year, that no one's going to want to buy that stock. And that's not true. Someone will buy the stock. They're just going to lower the price that they're willing to pay for that stock. Do you understand? Like I could go into the stock market. Remember, dating's a market just like the stock market. And I could go find a company in my Robinhood app right now that has really had some financial problems. I don't know, let's say BlackBerry or something. I think BlackBerry was struggling. Let me see BlackBerry. Let me look up BlackBerry. BB, ticker symbol BB. Now, BlackBerry is a crappy organization. They've been losing money for years. They messed up because they didn't keep up with the iPhones. Their earnings per share is either negative typically or it's very, very low. But guess what? BlackBerry still has a market capitalization of $2.5 billion. That 2.5 billion. And if you wanted BlackBerry stock, you could not get it for free. It's $4.18. Now, mind you, it used to be much higher than that. It used to be as high as what is it? $116. So BlackBerry has seen a decline due to market conditions, but BlackBerry is still a stock that millions of people want to buy. Do you understand? It's a matter of the price. So the same thing that's true with the stock market is also true with the dating market. So if somebody says, if you are a man who weighs 400 pounds and you don't want to take baths and you don't have any money and you're kind of a mean guy, ain't nobody gonna want to be with you. Well, no, somebody, there's somebody for everybody typically, especially when you have a big liquid market like dating. There's billions of people on the planet. Somebody out there is going to still be okay with having that man as her man. Now, what it might happen though is that his stock price might drop, right? You put on the 400 pounds, you don't like to take baths, you ain't got no money. So the demand for you as a boyfriend, husband, whatever you're trying to be, might dip a little bit, but then demand and supply have this relationship where there's still going to be somebody somewhere who says, yeah, you know what, I'll still take that guy, right? So when people say ain't nobody going to want you if you do blank, that's just wrong. That's just wrong. And I tried to find a polite way to explain that to Kevin Samuels when he was here. He didn't take it so well. He was very offended by what I had to say. But I said, why would you ever say that a person in a specific category is not going to be wanted by anybody? Because that's never ever 100% ever true. If you say you're over 35, nobody wants you. I was like, well, number one, I was single at the time. I said, actually, I don't want to date any women under 35 because I like women to be smart and mature. But then number two, you just can't say that. That's just not true. So that's where I would correct the brother from Hardly Initiated is I would say maybe you shouldn't say no one will ever want you because I think you can say that's not what I want, right? I get that, but you can't say no one will ever want that. But then also the question then becomes even deeper. As a man, I would ask what why am I going out of my way to tell people that nobody wants them? Like why would I even feel the need to do that? Why would I if I have a preference? Like so for example, let's just start here. Let's assume that you are a person who says, you know what, I really don't want my significant other to make more money than I do. And that's your preference. I think it's your right to have that preference. I really do. Like if you want somebody that likes to wear purple socks on a Saturday, that's your right. If you want somebody that's or like how women will say, I when I was single, I remember hearing I would hear women say, when I did online dating like 25 years ago, because I couldn't do once I became known, I couldn't do it anymore. But when I did it, I would hear women politely say, "I'm sorry, but I don't date men over 6 feet, under 6 feet tall." That was their right, right? So just like it was their right to say, "I want a man over 6 feet tall," it would be my right to say, "I want a woman shorter than me." Right? Because a lot of men want that. A lot of women don't. I could tell, just to tell on myself a little bit. When I was single, there was this really pretty lady who really liked me a lot. I think it was honestly, I think it was because of money. Because there's some people that just love money. And but she was like 6'2". And I was like, and now, mind you, in my mind, I've always believed I was 6'5". I do, but I still do. So please don't burst my bubble when you meet me. But people keep telling me I'm 5'8", but that's all fake news. They're just making things up. They're just like the Republicans and the Trumpers and the Democrats. They're making stuff up, right? But still, just in case I'm not actually as tall as I want to believe that I am, I personally felt like 6'2" was kind of weird for me. It was a little bit awkward. Um, did I ever tell her that? No, because why would what point would it be for me to make her feel bad about her height? But if that's my preference, that's my right to have that preference. Do you see what I mean, right? So if you have a preference, I think it's okay for anybody to have any preference they want. But in any market, when you make a preference, what you're introducing in economic theories, you're introducing a constraint. And so anytime you introduce a constraint, what happens is you get a less and less optimal outcome. You get a less optimal solution. So ultimately, if you really want to talk about whether you talk about dating or anything else, or even searching for a job, if I say, yeah, I really want to work, but I only want to work 3 days a week. I need a job that's 5 miles from my house. I need a job that has daycare for my kids. I need a job that's going to let me take off anytime I want. I need to make at least $400,000 a year, right? Every time you introduce a constraint in a mathematical equation where you're trying to optimize something, you're going to get a less optimal solution every time. Do you understand? You're going to get a solution every time that's going to be less optimal. So when you have women, anybody ever seen that? It's so weird. I don't know if I've never seen men do it, to be honest with you, but I've seen women that'll have a list of things. Like I had a friend who was really smart. She went to Harvard. She made $300,000 a year. She's about 45 years old. She was looking for a man, and she had a list of 27 things that she needed the man to have for her to pick a man. And I said, "Huh, that's really interesting." I'm curious. I'm wondering. Part of me honestly wonders if you're looking for something that doesn't exist. And honestly, I felt like I was thinking that would probably be something better handled with your therapist because her father died when she was young, and I kind of wondered if that played a part in this sort of looking for the fantasy man. So what would happen is she would meet a wonderful man every 6 months, and then after 6 months went by, she would realize he didn't fit the 27 parameter list, and then she would move on to the next guy. But with that being said, though, it was one thing that went through my mind as a mathematician was if you have 27 constraints, then it's going to be really hard for you to optimize that problem, right? So really, when you're picking or in any market, you want to really understand that every constraint that you introduce is going to limit your available supply. Right. So when you pick a constraint, it doesn't mean you shouldn't pick a constraint. It doesn't mean you shouldn't have standards. Everybody should have standards. I think it's a matter of deciding which ones are the deal breakers and which ones are not. Just like if I do a business deal or if I go take a job, I sure there's lots of things I might prefer. There are preferences I might have, but if everything becomes a deal breaker, then I shouldn't be surprised if I end up unemployed. So same thing would be true in relationships. If everything is a deal breaker, then your deals will be broken. And you'll just kind of go through this perpetual cycle of short relationships, 6 to 9 months. That's what the science says. The science says in the first 6 months, the phenylethylamine, dopamine, and oxytocin are really strong. So you're pretty much like it's like you're on drugs because you're having sex and you're having a great time. And then after about 6 months, it starts to wear off, and that's when you start to gain sobriety in the relationship, and you start to notice all the little things that get on your nerves. So about by the ninth to 12th month is when the relationship ends. And a lot of you probably know people that go into that cycle. I've studied this. When I wrote Financial Lovemaking, I literally studied the science of relationships because I learned early that if I don't learn how to manage relationships properly, I will never be able to achieve my goals. If and this was me as a young black man, if I could not control the influence that a beautiful woman might have on me or things like that, I was never going to be able to focus long enough to actually get through school and start a business and do the things that I wanted to do. I did not want my um my male instincts to I didn't want to spend all my time chasing women to the point where I didn't have anything else. And you notice you'll see people that have that. You'll see people that just are chasing everything, always chasing the tail, spend their last nickel trying to get a new woman, whatever, and then their lives kind of become complex, right? Complicated. And if you notice, most of these billionaires, they got one woman. They ain't got 50 chicks. Mark Zuckerberg has one wife that he dedicated. He had a big birthday bash for her, and he's been with this lady since he was in his 20s. How many guys do you know who could literally be 30 years old with enough money to buy any building in New York City with the money in his checking account? Like literally, he's that rich. He's rich enough he could probably buy your whole entire block or a big 30% of whatever city you live in, right? How many guys do you know could have that much money at the age of 35 and literally walk around in regular clothes, focus on the career, and focus on his wife and raising kids? A lot of men can't do that because I think that for black men, especially, the celebrity culture influences us too much, and it makes us think that, well, because you now have all this money, you're supposed to have all these shenanigans that go with it. But most of the billionaires minimize the shenanigans so they can focus on accomplishing the goal. Right. So anyway, with that being said, another thing that's interesting about this is that if you look at the research, you will find that the relationship between or the connection between a woman's income and how men feel about that, it is complex. It's not as simple as we might think. Like we want to believe that any man who feels this way, there's something wrong with him and whatever. And there are men that feel that way, and that may not be the man for you, but there's research that kind of talks about how a woman's income level can affect how a man feels in a relationship, similar to how a man might feel if he's 5'8" and his girlfriend is 6'2". It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with her for being 6'2". It just means she might need to be dating a taller guy because Danny DeVito may say, this is a little awkward for me, right? So here is some research on this in case you want to know what the scientists say. Unless you want to listen to YouTubers, and that's fine as well. There's a study published in the journal Personality and Social Psychology that found that men's self-esteem takes a hit when their female partners earn more than they do. This is tied to traditional gender norms where men are seen as providers. So if you grow up with a mindset that says, as a man, I must be the provider, the main provider, the sole provider, the best provider in the house, then yes, it is going to be awkward when the woman comes in and she's like, no, I actually provide more than you do. And also if it comes with a certain kind of attitude. I talked to a really successful woman who was a corporate executive, and she said that one thing that she had to work on was that she was the boss at her job and she was bossing people around and telling them what to do. And she didn't realize she was also doing that to her husband. She would come home and be the boss in the house, and he just didn't like it. And what happened in this particular relationship, they did get a divorce, and she found out that her husband was, and this was predicted by a lot of studies, her husband had like 5 or 6 girlfriends all across the city, because he's like, well, while you're at work and conquering the world, I need to go places where I feel like a man. Now, again, that's not, I'm not excusing any of the behavior or anything like that. I think a good therapist could have helped them work through that. But this is what actually is shown in the studies, that a lot more infidelity occurs in relationships where there is that economic imbalance. And I think that what is also interesting is I wonder how much of that comes with the perhaps false belief or expectation that a person who has the most money subconsciously knows that they have a certain amount of power in their relationship. So then it kind of becomes another type of competition where you as a man are feeling like, gosh, she's really wearing the pants around here. She's really telling me what to do, bossing me around because she makes the most money. And maybe deep down she's offended by the fact that you don't make very much money. And that can really actually show itself sometimes. And it reminds me of like when I first met my wife, you guys know I was friends with her for a long time, and I enjoy being her friend. I think that she was. I think it's weird when guys act like it's weird when you are kind of in the friend zone. She didn't put me in the friend zone. I put myself in the friend zone because I think women can make great friends. Women are great communicators. Women are in touch with their emotions. Women are very smart people to talk to. I have better conversations typically with women than I can with other dudes. You get on the phone with dudes, sometimes it's a little awkward. The only dude I have a really good long conversation with is actually my friend Willie D from the Ghetto Boys. Willie is a great communicator, a good guy, and fun to talk to. Willie and I get on the phone and talk for hours. Everybody else, even my dad, it'd be like, "You see the game yesterday? Yeah. What'd you think? It was good." It just like a lot of guys don't talk, and I learned to talk a lot from my mother. So I love talking. I think, so women tend to be better communicators. But anyway, with one thing that I didn't know at the time was I remember my wife would get approached by like NBA and NFL players because she's always been just this gorgeous lady. I think she's the prettiest thing I ever saw. And I assumed that, that most girls would rather date a 6'5" NBA player with $10 million in the bank than some nerdy grad student, who's 5'8", who's in the library all the time. I didn't know though that my wife's preferences in men were driven by her father, who was a professor at Tuskegee for 30 years. So she actually liked the smart guy. She wanted the guy who was going to be the professor. She kind of had an issue with athletes actually. And it wasn't fair though. It wasn't fair because I think that in her mind, she thought that dating an athlete came with other baggage, right? Other types of attitudes and behaviors and a culture attached, right? And you know what I'm talking about. Starting with just, having 50,000 girlfriends all over the planet, having sex with everything that moves. So you're passing STDs to a lot of people. People don't talk about that, but that is happening. And then just all these other forms of chaos that kind of override the amount of money or status that he might bring, or the fact that he's 6'5", 240 pounds of muscle, but yet he's bringing this tragedy and this trauma in your life that you can never overcome. I saw that a lot when I wrote Financial Lovemaking. When I wrote Financial Lovemaking, I remember interviewing a woman who won the lottery. She ended up dating a guy who got drafted in the NFL after his junior year, and he played for I think the Seattle Seahawks, and he played a half a season, got injured, they cut him from the team, and next thing you know, she said, "I thought that I was going to have this great life because I was married to this NFL player, but actually I had to work two jobs to pay the bills because he had no income coming in and he didn't want to go work because working was beneath him, and he thought that he would get a call from the NFL in any moment. So he would sit at home waiting for the NFL to call." And she said that when the NFL never called, he got depressed, and when he got depressed, he started taking more of the painkillers, drinking more of the liquor, and next thing you know, the relationship became very abusive. So she said, here I was. I thought I was going to live a Disney princess kind of life. And I ended up being an abused woman in a relationship where I had to work two jobs to pay the bills for a guy who was sitting at home drinking and taking drugs all day. So ultimately, what people I think that this is where wisdom and this is where mentorship comes into play. I think that a lot of us get led down the wrong road because we think all shiny objects are valuable, and that's just simply not true. So anyway, though, but I do think that my wife was unfairly biased against athletes, right? Because you can't assume every athlete is a womanizer or every athlete is going to break your heart and ruin your life. But that was her bias, that was her preference, and she had a right to have that preference, right? So the same way a woman has a right to have her preference, a man has a right to have his preference. And so her preference was an unfair preference, like athletes all do this and they all do that, which isn't true, right? Well, a lot of men, maybe they have a preference in the sense that they might feel that, look, when a woman's making more money than you, it becomes very difficult because a lot of women think they have more power than you, or they might punk you or whatever, or disrespect you. And I don't know how other men feel. I'm gonna just be biased and tell you the truth. I don't like to be disrespected. I don't. I don't care. My wife is a high flyer. She's got all the education. She's been kicking ass and taking names for many years. I don't consider that to be a threat. And I encourage other men to understand this. That doesn't make her a threat. That makes her an asset. That makes her an asset to you. So if you want to have assets in your life, then that's what you should have. You should have people around you that are accomplishing things. You don't have to be the Michael Jordan of your life and score all the points. You can have good teammates, and as long as you can mutually respect each other, then it becomes a great team. So, but here's the thing. I'll tell you the truth. If my wife was like walking around trying to disrespect me, I wouldn't tolerate that. And in times where I felt that the respect was not there, I would make it clear, like, look, no, this you're not talking to a little boy. You're talking to a grown man, and that's that. So we need to make sure we're clear about that. And the respect has to go both ways. So I think that what a lot of guys might feel, and I'm not saying that it's justified or not justified, is they might make the assumption that a certain income and status level might come with a certain type of disrespect. And let's just be honest, I've seen that disrespect. I've seen women have panels where they talk about how pathetic black men are and what black men do wrong, and kind of like the female version of a Kevin Samuels kind of conversation. And it's just not fair. It's not fair because you have to also acknowledge, remember this, that as much as you feel that your important black job, your high paying black job makes you automatically successful and makes you automatically into this wonderful catch, the white man is controlling 80, 90% of that. Most black people who consider themselves successful define themselves by their job or maybe where they went to school or something like that. The white man decides all that. He decides if you're going to get the promotion or not. And one of the realities that I confronted with my wife, and we talked about this, is I said, there's places you can go where that white man will hire you and give you an opportunity to be next to him because studies show that a lot of men they want to be next to a beautiful woman or they love promoting certain types of people. I said, but they wouldn't want me around because I'm a threat. I'm a very serious black man who is very scary to them. I'm very smart, I'm very serious, I'm very strategic. A lot of people will be very intimidated by that. So there's certain opportunities you will always get that I won't get. But what does that do? Do I sit around and whine about it? No. What I do is I realize I confront reality. Reality is I'm not a white man. Reality is I'm not a black woman. Reality is I'm a black man. And as a black man, I have to be real clear about the specific opportunities and then specific limitations that come with what I am. Once I realized that, once I really accepted the fact that I'm a black man and that the rules are different for me, that's when I said, okay, a black man can really only get ahead and get real power in this country if he is a builder, if he builds his own institution, if he knows how to start his own business, if he knows how to make investments and own assets. If you are a black man and you want to be a king, I think you are delusional if you believe that that white man is going to invite you into his castle and make you the king. If you are a black man and you want to be a king, you must learn how to build a castle. You must build even if it's a tiny castle, even if it's not as big as somebody else's castle, it's still your damn castle. And I really believe that we have to confront the fact that so many black boys are distracted by sports, by basketball, football, rapping, and thugging, and all these things that they learn when they're kids. They learn from the entertainment space that leaves them incredibly disempowered when they get into the real game of global economic competition. I really think it's a problem when you consider what's happening with black families. You cannot disconnect that from the fact that 86% of black boys in their senior year of high school cannot read at grade level. Those two things are connected because every 18-year-old, most 18-year-olds eventually become 28-year-olds who eventually become 38-year-olds. So if you're behind the eight ball that much at the age of 18, then it does not surprise me when you're still behind the eight ball when you're 28. So when that little boy and that little girl both get to marriage age and she's up here, she done went to school and got the great job and he's still not reading at grade level, I don't see how that's going to really work. There's no science anywhere that says that it's going to be a natural fit for her to be with a man that's shorter than her, so to speak, shorter in terms of income, shorter in terms of education, shorter in terms of just goal setting in life accomplishment. I'm not saying that this makes the men pathetic. It means that really we don't have honest conversations with our boys. And again, this links back to that lack of mentorship. That's why I say every black man, especially every black person, period, but really I'm talking about black men. Every black man under 30 needs a set of mentors over the age of 50 who have accomplished real power. That's another thing. I believe that the reason we don't have as much power as we want is because a lot of people don't even know what power is. They don't even know how to define it. They don't know what it really means to have power. I had to think about, I had to meditate on what power means. What does it mean I got a great job? Does it mean that I went to school? Does it mean no? Like, power is it's complex, but I feel powerful because can't nobody come up in my life and move me around like I'm a little chump. Can't nobody come into my space and dictate what's going to happen in my house. I pay the bills in this place. I decide what I'm going to do that day. I decide what the agenda is going to be. And I don't decide that for the whole world, but I decide that for my world. I have a say in that world. Right. And power might also come through the relationships I form. My wife makes me powerful. My friends make me powerful. You help make me powerful. I help make you powerful. Right. So these relationships can make you powerful. The intellect can make you powerful. I spent many years, like Malcolm X, studying everything I could possibly study because I knew that the more knowledge I have, the more power I have to understand what's happening to me and what's happening around me. So I'm not walking around, so hey, I'm gonna go get high, yo. Let me where the liquor at, man. Let me go get some. Keep living like that and watch how powerless you become. Well, yo, seriously, you've got threats everywhere from the police wanting to shoot you down in the street to folks wanting to lock you out of the economic system to the Democratic Party and Republican parties trying to tell you who to vote for to all these things. So if you don't show up understanding what it means for you to go get your power and you're not committed to investing in that, then you're probably not going to have that. And the other thing I learned about power that I believe is you gain more power as a black person if you're pouring into ownership of something that is yours than you'll ever get by standing behind that white man and building his business for him. That seriously, you standing behind him, standing up under him, trying to be his best friend, trying to go and get him to hire you and get him to give you opportunities, that will leave you in a space where you're gonna just feel like you're busting your butt and working your ass off, but nothing is coming out of that. You won't feel powerful that way. I think the quickest path for a black male to feel power is ownership. What do you own? What do you control? You don't have to control everything, but you got to control something. And also, are you a builder? We don't have enough black boys that are trained to build things, right? Can you go and even if you can build a house? Well, if I can build a house, then I have power in that house. I can decide what the house is going to look like. I decide the shape of the house, what the ventilation system is going to be, what the electrical system is going to be. If I can build a car, then I get to drive that car. I get to go where I want to go. I get to decide what kind of engine is going to be in the car, what color the car is going to be, who's going to be driving that car. But in order for me to achieve the power of driving my own car, I got to have the skills to build a damn car. I got to have the courage to build the damn car. I got to have the patience to build the car. I got to have the resilience to build the car. And I want you to look around and I want you to think about people that you know who feel powerless in this world. People that just feel like the world's kicking them in the ass and they can't get anything done without masses help and they're scared to death and everything else. And I want you to look at their lives and find out what they've actually built, what they actually own, what skill they have for building. And that will tell you everything you need to know about the source of their powerlessness. If you are plugged into a system and highly dependent on a system and highly dependent on people that don't respect you and don't have your best interests at heart, you will never feel power in this country. Power requires some heavy lifting. And so I think that what happens to a lot of men, unfortunately, is I think that when you get into relationships where she's doing well and you're not where you want to be, it might be a reminder of how powerless you are. And I believe you were powerless because you had the wrong mentors. I had to go specifically find black male mentors that were gonna give me power because I ran into a lot of bitches and punks, excuse my French. I ran into a lot of punks, a lot of cowardly men who told me that I could be successful as long as you don't make the white folks mad. You best not be talking like that or you're gonna. They sounded like some runaway slaves. I kid you not. It was crazy. I was in University of Kentucky and I said, why is it that I'm meeting so many older black males who are wimps, scared of their own damn shadow? I wanted to meet men similar to the father that raised me. My father was not scared of nobody. He had a soldier's mindset, and I did meet people like that. I can name them really quick if you don't mind. A guy named W.C. Benton, who was at Ohio State. He's one of the most skilled people in the world in his field, and he was a Marine and he was a fighter. And he said, don't let these folks walk all over you. He said, you shoot your gun until the last bullet is gone. I wrote that down in my brain. I never forgot that. I met people like Dr. George C. Frazier, who has been just extraordinary in terms of helping us understand what we got to do in order to win. He says that white folks ain't really thinking about you like that. White folks are thinking about white folks. You need to be thinking about your own people. Your families are falling apart. Your community's falling apart. You're not connecting with each other. You're not making a plan to build. That's why you're struggling. People like him, Dr. Claude Anderson. Dr. Claude Anderson, also a veteran who has been teaching powernomics for the last 50 years. People like Kenny Gamble. Kenny Gamble was an intelligent visionary who went and bought up blocks of property in Philadelphia when nobody wanted it because he said at some point white folks are going to come back. And he predicted gentrification 20, 30 years before it happens. He didn't sit back and allow himself to be a victim. He didn't do what other entertainers did. His other entertainers went out and bought big cars and fur coats with their money. He invited his friends to invest with him. They didn't want to do it because they didn't want to build anything. They didn't want to own anything. They didn't want to have a long-term vision or long-term plan. They all just wanted to live their best life. And then years later, Kenny became an incredibly wealthy man who owned some of the best property in Philadelphia because he executed his vision of ownership, which is the key to power. See, in America, and I can tell you this as an expert on finance, in America, money and wealth is power. That's power. Having resources and controlling those resources is one of the fastest pathways to power in this country, and that typically goes to builders. It goes to people that can have a vision, execute the vision, work at that vision consistently, and then next thing you know, they're able to call the shots in their space. Just like building a family, some people think that you can pretend to have a family, or maybe you can babysit kids long enough. Think about it. To think that you can work for other people as a community and have real power is like thinking I can babysit other people's kids, and that'll be just like being a parent. No, you're not. You'll never be the parent. You're always going to be the babysitter. The minute the real parents decide they want to take their kids back, you're going to have to step to the side. The all the energy that you pour into watching these kids while their parents are off on vacation or whatever, that won't matter because when it comes time to make critical decisions about how the child's life is going to go, ain't nobody going to ask the damn babysitter. They're going to ask the mother. They're going to ask the father, the people who made the real structural foundational investment in the creation of this entity called a child. So you can't fake that. So if you want to have power in America, you need to learn how to become economic parents. You must give birth to the economic realities that you want to see. You need to learn how to go in there and create something and feed it every day, consistently dedicate your life to that business or that institution the same way a mother dedicates every second of her life to her child. If you don't do that, then you will not have power. And the reason people don't have power is because they always want to take the shortcut. Oh, I got a record deal. Now I'm rich. No, you're not. Your record label's rich. You'll be dead in a couple of years, or all your money will be gone as soon as they find another Negro that they want to put on a record label. If you really want to have power in the music industry, you better learn how to start your own label, or work with other people to start a label, or own a piece of a label, or own your damn masters at least. Read your damn contracts. But if you're getting on the stage and you're just performing for people because white people love to see a black man get on stage and call himself the N-word and degrade his own community, that'll be good as long as it's good. And when it goes bad, it's gonna go bad. Anyway, let me move on. All right, so let's finish up this point, okay? And I'm sorry if I offended anybody with my language. I'm sorry, but not sorry. I just have to say this. I'm sorry, but I don't apologize for who I am. I can't do that. I'm gonna be Boyce every day. So if you like it, then you're gonna get more of it. If you don't like it, then you can go. It's okay. Just a reminder, if you are not on the text list to join this morning class, we meet every single day at 7 a.m. To talk about economics. Just text the word morning, MORNING, to the phone number 87948. So text morning to 87948, and I'll invite you. Also, if you want to join us tomorrow, we're going to do Stock Market Tuesday, and I'm going to break down stocks that I like and things like that, and answer a lot of your questions about stock market investing. I want everybody to invest in the stock market. You can do a free trial at drboycestockmarket.com. That's drboycestockmarket.com. All right. So let me finish up this point about the research on men and why some men feel weird when a woman makes more money than them. And I think it's their right to have that preference. But it's not your right to say that everybody should have that preference, right? It's your right to feel that way, but it's not your right to tell women that no one will want them because they went to school or because they make money. Like that's just a ridiculous way to look at the world. And again, I'm not making fun of the guys at the podcast because I told you I like those guys a lot. I met them, I love them. They had me on one time, and they're very friendly, very good people. But this is just incorrect, and I just have to be honest about that. Here's a few other reasons, according to research, why some men are feel awkward in these relationships. There's fear of a power imbalance. Research from the Harvard Business Review. This is business. This is a business journal. They found that in marriages where the wife earns more, couples report lower marital satisfaction and higher divorce rates. So some men believe that financial power translates into overall relationship dominance, which can be tough. Also, a study by the Journal of Marriage and Family in 2017 showed that men who earn less than their wives often experience negative social judgment, including from family and peers. So a lot of times, maybe you feel bad because you feel like other people will make fun of you because your wife is wearing the pants and she's the breadwinner. That's kind of tough. That's a real tough one. I know that there's things that my wife feels like she's supposed to do because she's the wife, and I don't know. I don't know how she would feel if I came in and I did everything that women do in a relationship. You know what I mean? I think she'd probably be happy if I cooked and cleaned, things like that. Not to say that those are jobs that women have to do, but traditionally we know how it goes, right? I think she'd probably actually appreciate the help. But I wonder, I don't know, just when you talk about certain things that might be defined as feminine, like sitting in the mirror and working on your hair for an hour or something. If I was in the mirror as much as she was, I think she'd probably be offended by that. I don't know. All right, what else? Insecurity and competition in a relationship. The Journal of Economic Behavior and Organization found that men in dual income households with higher earning wives often engage in overcompensatory spending to assert financial dominance. Whew, Lord. Um, let's see. A study at the University of Chicago found that men whose wives earn more than them are more likely to suspect infidelity, even if there's no evidence of it. That's interesting. But actually, what studies do show is that women who get up and go to work every day, if the man's at home and he's doing Mr. Mom and trying to be like completely like a modern man, if she's going to work every day, the likelihood of infidelity from the woman increases. Because she's because I think I'm not sure, I'm not an expert on this, but I think there's like an attraction to testosterone that can kind of kick in, and the attraction to testosterone might mean that if she's at work and she's sharing these common goals with her work husband and talking to him all day, and they're achieving these great things together, there's some chance that there could be a spark or an attraction. In fact, there's a lot of studies that show that people tend to fall in love with people that they work with all the time every day, and it's so, which makes it kind of awkward that we kind of vilify workplace relationships because they happen all the time, right? But you have to be disciplined, of course, but still, even with that, it's going to happen. But I think again, I think everybody has a right to have whatever preference they want. I would encourage men to really understand that black women are different. They've had a different set of experiences and a different set of outcomes, a different set of hurdles to overcome. And part of the reason I think black people do better when we choose to really try to love each other is because we really understand each other. So if you understand what your mother went through, then you might understand, you have a good probability of understanding what your wife is going through, or what your wife might have experienced. And the same thing is true on the other side, right? My wife knows certain things about me, my experience as a black man that I don't think a white woman would know. That's why I couldn't marry a white woman or anything like that. No disrespect to anyone else, but I wanted to marry a black woman because it's like, we kind of get each other. We know where all of us have our share of crazy because the world is a crazy place. America has been a crazy place for black people. So a lot of us have these mental health issues. But here's the bigger thing. This is the big point. This is something I want to leave you with. And again, I hope you'll consider this. You need help. You need help. Your relationship is one of the biggest investments you'll ever make. It's one of the biggest investments you'll ever make. And the biggest mistake people make is they don't invest in their relationships. They just hope that everything works out. They just and I just implore you, don't make the mistake I made. I made this mistake in my 20s. I probably could have should have got married and started having more kids in my 20s. But and I because I had a great woman that I loved. I love my wife a lot, but had a great woman I loved, and we just didn't know how to properly love each other because we both had so much trauma. She'd gone through so much, I'd gone through so much. So we would just have these crazy fights over nothing. And it didn't make any sense to me because I really cared about her, but we just would fight, right? And so again, I'm happy that I met my wife, and to tell you how far back me and my wife go, she met my wife back when my wife was my friend, and she hated her. She was like she just hated her guts. So maybe she saw the future, who knows? But still, though, the point of the matter is to say that I think that if you make the connection between the fact that stable relationships generate the most wealth. Therefore, if I'm investing in my wealth, I should invest in my relationship. That, in my opinion, really should impress upon you or to get you to at least consider that, look, if I'm going to invest in you as a person, I'm going to invest the time and the energy to learn about you, to have a good relationship with you, but I'm also going to invest in the knowledge base that allows us to even have the tools required to have a good relationship. Like, I want you to really think about how many black folks there are who think they can have a stable marriage when they never even saw one growing up. How is that going to happen? What makes you, I mean, really, you never even saw on a daily basis what it looks like for a man and a woman to make decisions together. Maybe you grew up with it was you and your mama, and you never saw your mama really having to stop doing something to say, well, my husband doesn't want that. Your dad said no, so we're not going to do that today. Like I did see that. Or I would see my father just say, well, you know how your mama is. Your mama don't want us doing that, so that's not going to happen. Right? It was stuff like that that let me know that if I'm trying to build something with a woman, I'm going to have to compromise. And I want you to listen online to how many people go into relationships and expect to not have to compromise on anything, and that if you're asked to compromise, then that either makes you a simp or a pick me. I think they call the women pick me's when they compromise with men and submit to men or love men in a certain way and compliment men and feed their ego. Well, you know what? I'm a pick me and a simp when it comes to my wife because I know that in order for this thing to work, my goal every day is to do everything I can to make sure that that woman in the other room is as happy as I can possibly make her without it compromising too much of my own integrity. I'm not going to go too far. If it gets unreasonable, then we talk about that. But for the most part, I need her to know it. I need to boost her ego. Every day I'm going to let her know how beautiful she is. Every day I'm going to compromise with her. Every day I'm going to say, what does it take for us to maintain the stability of this multi-million-dollar asset that we've created called our family? We started a business together. Marriage is a business. I mean, it's a legal contract. That's kind of what it is. It's an economic entity like no other that you'll ever be connected to in your life for the most part. The difference is it's an intergenerational economic entity. Because if you maintain the stability of the family and you produce children out of this, then these children are going to have outcomes 50 years from now that are a direct reflection of things that you choose to do right now. And I want to go back to that point that I've made to you before, that it's really fascinating that black folks have been trained to spend more time studying how to do a good job for a white man at his company than you spend learning how to do a good job for your family and your spouse. Why would you spend more time studying how to be a good employee for a white-owned business than you spend learning how to be a good leader for a black-owned family? That is brainwashing people. You got the wrong damn education. That's what you did. You got the wrong education. They tricked you. They created your universities and HBCUs and all this other stuff to teach black people to do one thing, how to serve white people and make them wealthy. That's what they trained you to do. That's why most of these institutions, all they do is they produce black employees who 30 years down the line are pissed off because you don't work your ass off and you ain't got no wealth to show for it. That's because somebody else got the wealth. Wealth is neither created nor destroyed. You made the money. The money got made. The money came in. The money just didn't go into your pocket. It went into somebody else's pocket. So yes, you got rope-a-doped. That's what happened. You got tricked. So now that you know, now that we've unveiled the mystery, the big secret of whiteness, like a Scooby-Doo mystery, we figured out who's been stealing all the money. What are you going to do about it now? How are you going to shift your energy and shift your attention in such a direction that you're going to be able to ensure that you and your family are the beneficiaries of all of the sacrifices that you make? Well, I can tell you one shift you can make. One shift you can make right now is it, and I'm gonna tell you because that's the shift I've made, is ain't no institution outside of this house more important than the institution we're building right here. That I'm the CEO of this house. This is where I have power, and I share power with my wife. It's not a threat to me. My wife is an asset. She's not a competitor. So if you want to know where I put my time, where I put my energy, right here. I spend all the time I can learning how to be a better father, how to be a better husband, how to be a better leader. Because that also spins into how to run a better business. Because I do business with my wife, I do business with our son, I do business with our daughter, the youngest one. She don't want to work yet, but she coming in too. We're doing all this together because all this can connect. The family and the economics are deeply connected. The number one reason black wealth is dropping, there's two major reasons. One is student loans, because you'll go $200,000 in debt to get a $50,000 a year job. Half of all black college graduates default on their student loans. Half of all black college graduates, this is your talented 10th, they default. They can't pay their loans back. The second reason that black wealth is dropping is because of the destruction of the black family. The inability of black people to do something as simple as get married and stay married has cost you trillions of dollars in black wealth. You fix those two things, you adjust, then you'll find your outcomes will be quite different. And I can't tell you everything about what's going to make you powerful in your life, but I can tell you that much of that power starts with ownership. Owning something, controlling something, building something, designing something, pouring into something where you have a say in how that works. And it's really important, I think, for the men that feel threatened and uncomfortable with women that are making more money and all this other stuff. My heart goes out to you. I'm not making fun of you and none of that. I'm really not. I get it. I totally get it. But I can tell you a lot of my power base is in this house. You know, I'm not trying to go get a better job than my wife. I don't want a job because I know that man, I'm just be honest with you. I don't know. I guess I'm a race man. I guess I'm a man who has a certain reality about racism. And I don't, that's why I don't get offended by the Elon Musks and the Joe Bidens so much because I've never believed that any of these people liked me. I've never believed that any of these people wish me well. I don't believe any of them want me to be successful. I don't believe any of them want me to compete with them. So now that I know this, I know that they don't love me, then I focus on the people who do. And I also don't fall for some of these silly games that we've been introduced to. This, integration and DEI is going to save everybody. I never believed that crap because it ain't true. So you got to build your own, black people. You got to build your own. All right. So anyway, I'm done. Thank you guys for listening. It was wonderful getting a chance to talk to you. Just a reminder, if you want to get a text notification when we meet for class in the morning, pull out your phone, text the word morning to the phone number 87948. Text morning to 87948. Also, later on tonight, my wife, Dr. Alicia, she's a licensed therapist and a full professor of social work, she's going to do her Mental Health Monday because we've learned that mental health is deeply connected to financial health. So she helped us to start the first ever Black financial therapy department in the Black Business School. There is no other Black financial therapy department anywhere. And in case you want to hear a flex on the Black Business School, we have 187,000 students worldwide, so we're getting it done. We're making it happen, and we're very successful in terms of being able to reach lots of people. So anyway, so tonight she's doing Mental Health Monday. If you want to get an invitation, just text the word love to the number 87948. So text love to 87948. And also tomorrow we're doing Stock Market Tuesday. Oh, and by the way, Dr. George Fraser, I believe he's coming in tomorrow or the next day. So I mentioned him earlier. He's a great guy. He wrote a book called Success Runs in Our Race. It is required reading, I believe, in almost every HBCU in America. He is an OG. I think he's hit 80, but to me he's going on 40, and he's one of the baddest black men ever. And these are the and women that we need to listen to. These are the people that we need to hear from. And I'm gonna just tell you, my patience grows thin with the idiots that they put in front of us who only teach young black people how to destroy their lives. I want you to have a good life. I want you to be happy. I want you to have money in your pocket. I want you to be successful. I want your relationships to work, because when they don't, you end up out here all by yourself, and it becomes really, really hard to find your peace. So anyway, that's it, guys. Have a wonderful day. Thank you guys for listening, and you'll hear from me at different times during the day. If something comes up, I might text you guys. So feel free to come in and respond, and we're always here for you. So have a good day, everybody. Thank you guys for listening. I'll see you guys later. Take care. Bye bye. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. I know that I know that we started about 60 seconds early, but that's not much. That's just 60 seconds. Anyway, I hope everybody's doing well. Welcome to Money in the Morning. Today is March 9th, 2025. How many of you did anybody else forget that it was daylight savings time? I kept looking, I looked at my watch on my wrist and it gave me one time, and then I looked at my cell phone, and I thought my cell phone was lying to me, and I just woke up confused, man. I was feeling kind of like, wait, what's going on? What's happening here? And I still feel a little bit confused. I still feel a little bit off. So I imagine if I feel off, I bet a lot of people feel off. Because yeah, this whole daylight savings time stuff is weird. I didn't remember, I didn't get a reminder or anything, right? So it's kind of crazy. And I think I heard that the president was thinking about getting rid of daylight savings time or something like that. He's doing all kinds of stuff up there. But anyway, I hope everybody's doing well. I hope you're doing good. I hope that your money is right. I know that I'm excited. I mentioned to you all yesterday that 75% of you said that your money was up because you are in this class, and that's exactly what I wanted. I want you all to be successful financially, and that's why we get together every morning, 7 days a week, including Sundays like today, and we talk about our economics. Can I get an amen? All right. All right. So anyway, one of the things that really actually came to mind that and I hope I'm not beating a dead horse on this. That's not the goal. But yesterday we had a theme, and the theme was Disney princesses that decide they want to have babies with rappers. And I'm not making fun of anybody, but this came up in my feed today, and I just said, you know what, let's just finish the conversation because there is more to talk about. And there is the lady Halle Bailey. Halle Bailey had a baby with a guy. He's a rapper slash influencer named DDG. I think his first name might be Daryl or something like that. And so lately. There is a big kind of discussion regarding Hallie and her baby and this guy, DDG, the influencer slash rapper. And basically, it's kind of spilled over into the internet. It's gotten real messy, and Disney don't like messy, so that every time it gets messy, that probably costs Hallie another $10 million in opportunities. Because Disney keeps it tight. They don't really like messy. They don't like crazy. They don't like buffoonery in public. And I thought this would be a great opportunity to kind of expand on what we talked about yesterday about financial lovemaking. A lot of people think that money and relationships have nothing to do with each other. A lot of people think that if you love each other enough, then money doesn't matter, that we can throw money out the window, that to even bring up money it's just taboo. There's just something wrong with that. And money came into the conversation because I heard DDG. I don't have I got to look up his actual name so I don't just keep calling him DDG, but that's what they call him online. And I heard him say something to the effect of, I can't see my son. I'm not allowed to see my son because I have to pay money. I have to pay money to see my son. And I think that was kind of the whole discussion. It was, money and family. And that's where my ears perk up because you guys know I study money for a living. And so I'm really curious about how money affects human behavior. I'm really curious about how money affects all the different parts of our lives. And so just to kind of give you a quick background in terms of the situation and what's been kind of going on, there's between these two, there's sort of a Twitter war going on, where they're kind of tweeting and talking about their relationships and stuff like that. And it's very messy. I can tell you, as a person who thinks about business and stuff like that, I guarantee you that there are people at Disney and her business partners who are looking at this and saying, "Okay, come on, this is too much. We got to go into PR mode because he's trying to damage her reputation." And if you want kind of an update, I know that there was a few things. I think that he tweeted something. Let me see. I looked it up. I gotta, stuff like this. I gotta make sure I know what I'm talking about. So I try to get all the details and all the facts. And so basically, on as of March 9th, the situation continues to evolve pretty publicly. They broke up in October 2024, and like a lot of young relationships, they broke up before the baby was even 1 years old or something like that. I don't even know if they were even together when the baby was born. And I told you that's a big problem with the black family. Dr. George C. Frazier, who I'm going to bring to class, who's one of the great geniuses of our generation, did a really great presentation about how the destruction of the black family is literally the leading cause of all the problems that are happening right now. That literally the fact that the black family has become extinct. That's why a little 16-year-olds are getting shot in the street in Chicago. That's a big part of the reason why you have so much why black wealth is on the decline. That's why a lot of mental health issues are popping up because children are not protected under the envelope of a mother and a father. And so anyway, so they broke up, I guess in October. I think he described a relationship as a part-time job. He didn't see the benefit and the value of taking responsibility for a woman and a child. He kind of, and I understand. I mean, he's a young influencer. He's got his internet chicks and stuff like that, and he's internet famous. So maybe that was his distraction. But one thing I can also say to you on top of that, just and this is really Uncle Boyce talking at this point. I can tell you for a fact that a man's willingness, I believe, again, this is just my theory. I believe that a man's willingness to take responsibility for people, other people like children and a woman, is deeply connected to what he saw his father do, right? If he and so when I read that comment where he kind of saw relationships as a part-time job and the family sort of split up very quickly, I said, I bet you that his father was not in the house for the majority of the time that he was growing up, right? So this guy DDG, who's had the baby with the Disney princess Halle Bailey, I read his bio, and his parents were divorced when he was very young, and even though he loves both of his parents, they were kind of living their best life. They were each kind of in their own direction. And he made a comment that was really interesting about, and this was an economic comment, so that intrigued me. He said he talked about how he watched his mother struggle working two jobs, and now he's making money as an internet influencer because he says I got it out the mud. So typically, if your mother's working two jobs and struggling, that usually means she doesn't have help in the house. And one of the things I had to explain to a young lady that had a baby daddy where I wasn't really sure what the guy was doing is I said, I don't know if you ever saw the way the family's supposed to work, in my opinion. The way the family's supposed to work is the man and the woman help each other. I said, my wife and I, we help each other. We got three kids. We have to help each other. It's very hard to get the baby to soccer practice, pick up the other one at the other school, make sure so and so gets their homework done, make sure the house is clean, dishes are done, all this stuff. It's hard to do all that by yourself. So this whole insane imagery that we've created of the strong black woman who can hold it down and take care of a bunch of guys' kids is just false. It's leading to the mental health crisis that we're seeing in our community. It's why well, I forgot her name, but she wrote a great book. Terry Williams wrote a great book called Black Pain. Anybody heard of that book? And it's why it's something like basically she's talking about the quiet depression that millions of black women are experiencing. That millions of black women are going through depression and anxiety because we've created a world where we literally we don't even shame a man for not taking care of his kids. We don't act like that's a big deal. We're like, yeah, and then every year he'll put out some kind of, I saw this rapper named Future. He put every year for Mother's Day, he puts out some kind of tweet that says, I just want to give love to my all my baby's mamas for holding it down for me and da 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 da. Well, you should be holding it down. Why are they holding everything down? But then again, I would probably go talk to the mothers and say, well, why did you lay down with this nasty man who's making babies everywhere? Oh, because you're fascinated with rap culture and you think that these guys are going to make good husbands and fathers. And I told you that most of hip hop, most toxic hip hop is very anti-family. There's nothing pro-black family that was given to you when those white folks created those record labels and said, let's turn black people into a pack of niggas. I'm gonna say that one time. I'm not gonna use that word no more, but that's what they did. They created a factory of dysfunctional behavior, and they said we're going to give them money so they'll think that they're successful when really they're not, and we're going to spread this message that's going to dismantle and disintegrate the ability of black people to ever come together to accomplish anything. A community with very few families can't have power. You'll never have power. I don't care how many times you go vote for the Democrats. I don't care how many record deals you sign. I don't care how many times you march with Al Sharpton. You will never have power if you don't have family. Family is the foundation of power in a community. So anyway, and give me a yes if you understand where I'm coming from. I hope you guys, and let me know if you can hear me. Okay, somebody just said they can't hear me. I just want to make sure you guys can hear me. All right. Okay, so so we're talking about DDG and Halle Bailey, and Halle Bailey's the Disney princess. She was in that Little Mermaid movie, and DDG is this influencer rapper. They had a baby, and basically this week he's kind of said, I can't see my kid because she wants me to pay money. And I thought that was interesting when the word money comes up, they kind of piques my spidey senses. And one of the things I thought about is, first off, it's very direct to kind of say, okay, that's a little taboo, right? Like, why should money be a requirement for me to see my child? I get that, right? Like money, it just seems weird. Like, give me my money, right? Before you can see your baby. That's just cruel. That's just kind of a terrible idea, right? Well, unfortunately, what happens is that you have this reality where these damn kids, they need all this unreasonable stuff. Like these freaking children, they demand all these ridiculous things like food. Like why in the hell you need food? Like why did this damn baby always trying to and the thing is the baby don't eat like once a week or once a month. The baby's trying to eat every day, little greedy bastard. Like why these kids they want food and then they get older and they want like clothes and then they want like a place to live and then they want heat. Like why the hell you need heat? What you need heat for? We got blankets in the closet, right? So these kids, they just want so much stuff. And the hard part about that, here's the sad reality about that. The part that's just so unfair is that these things cost money. These things, did y'all know this? Did y'all know that? How many of y'all know? How many parents in the building? How many of y'all know? Anybody know how expensive kids are? Anybody know that? I'm gonna tell you, I would like to call the department, the Doge guys, the Department of Government Efficiency, to come up in my house and calculate how much money these little SOBs done took out of our bank account. It's expensive. We spend enough money to fund the Pentagon for the next 5 years taking care of these kids. So kids are not free. Right. And that's my point. My point is to say, while it's certainly taboo, and I get it, I saw the poor guy. He was on the internet and he was, the internet's a perfect place to go and proclaim yourself to be a victim. And he's like, well, so I can't see the baby if I don't pay the money. Well, F it. He said, F it. And he sounded kind of sad and kind of almost like a little pathetic, and I was like, oh, you poor baby, you poor thing. You probably made what, a couple $1 million last year, but I guess whatever amount you're supposed to pay to take care of your kid is too much for you. But I wonder if that Lamborghini that you got arrested in last year, I wonder how much that cost. Again, no disrespect, not making fun of you, but I'm really kind of thinking like, did we prioritize the Lamborghini over the baby? Well, if you prioritize the Lamborghini over the baby, then some people would say that maybe there's an education required in terms of the fact that you might have to understand that raising kids is not free. Like again, I'm not here to say that he's right and she's wrong. I'm not here to talk about that part. I'm here to say that who in the hell made these young boys think, and any young person who thinks that babies don't require food. that babies don't require clothing, that babies don't require tuition, that babies don't require all kinds of other things. Babies need stuff. Doctors' visits, these things cost money. And so when a man or woman or anybody, and it's not just specifically for men, I'm talking about anybody who thinks this way, when anybody thinks that you can raise a child with no money and that that everything should just be free because you don't live there and you don't have to deal with the consequences of the financial strain that might be thrust on the household. I would like to correct that and kind of help you understand that no, that there is a financial cost to this. And what happens, I believe, and I'm gonna tell you the truth, is that I believe that when people move out of the house, then they're disconnected from the financial challenges of raising a child. You can get to the point where you just can disconnect from it. You don't have to worry about it. I can't. I live in the house with the kids. I can't if something expensive comes through the door. We got to pay for I don't know. We dance classes for the baby because she loves to dance. And I know, just draining my pockets, right? She loves to dance, and dance class costs money. I can't I can't tell my wife, hey, I'm off living my best life with my Lamborghini. You handle that. And I want to say thank you to my baby's mamas for holding it down, while I go drive off in my Lamborghini and just date random women. I have to confront that because I'm in the house. And I really will say that I really think you might want to take a moment to reflect on what happens when you have a child that's raised in a home where the father is not present. Now, can y'all hear me? It looks like some of y'all are some of us are being kicked out of the room. Am I still good? Am I visible and audible? Just give me a quick yes so I can just kind of know that everything's okay, because it looks like the system's acting a little bit weird. I just want to make sure we're good on this. Okay, all right. So I'm going to assume that we are. So let's keep going. All right. So here's more. D2G announced their split on October 3rd, 2024, stating that, quote, after much reflection and heartfelt conversations, they decided to part ways, emphasizing that it was a mutual decision and they remain best friends with deep and true love for each other. That's a nice statement. I bet the Disney people probably wrote that. Halle Bailey did not comment publicly on the breakup, though she later posted on Instagram and captions and music suggesting resilience, such as Destiny's Child Survivor. So now she's going into the Terry Williams Black Pain, depressed, anxious, struggling Black woman mode. I'm a survivor. I'm not gonna give up. I'm a survivor. I'm gonna work harder. Y'all know that song, right? It's a great song. Beyonce did that song. Thought I was down, but now I'm on top. Da 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 ba 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 ba, and it won't stop. And remember that? It was a great song. But what's kind of interesting is it feeds right back into this expectation that if you are a Black woman, life is gonna be just unbearably difficult. That if you're a Black woman, that you will struggle, there will be pain, lots and lots of pain, lots and lots of trauma. Your life's going to kind of suck, and you're going to have to survive that. And I think that this, it really speaks to a broader challenge that tends to occur in the Black community overall, where we tend to believe that being Black means that it comes with kind of a struggle package, right? And so instead of playing powernomics, we end up playing strugglenomics. And when we survive strugglenomics, we think we won the game. But I can just tell you that you didn't actually win the game when you survive the struggle. You win the game when you actually thrive. You win the game when you're actually secure. You win the game when you're actually in a good place. And so that right there would probably concern me, because I'd probably say, if I was her father, I would say, a man coming into your life is supposed to make your life better. Right? Give me a yes if you agree that you bring a person, a man or a woman, into your life's supposed to improve, right? But it doesn't sound that way. It sounds like you've gone down. So what choices are you making in terms of your life? What types of men are you? Because you're a Disney princess. You got $10 million in the bank. You're very successful for your age. So there are lots of high quality men who would love to add value to your life. They would love to come in, marry you, have a baby with you, just like the Disney fairy tale. Give you the whole fairy tale package. There are Black men that will do this for you. I know y'all think that they lame. I know y'all call them simps and y'all make fun of men like that. But I know a lot of brothers who understand, like, look, that's my woman, that's my kid. I'm gonna marry her. I'm gonna take care of them. I'm gonna make her life better. I'm gonna support her career. She's gonna do better because I'm around. Her life will improve because of my existence. See, what you got to understand, and this is talking to the men now, at your funeral, you don't want a whole bunch of people at your funeral thinking, man, this man made me struggle. Man, this dude, shoot, when he came in my life, everything went downhill after that. Ooh, I was singing Destiny's Child Survivor songs after he came. It was struggle love. It was woo. Oh my God, it was so hard to pay the bills because this nigga didn't want to get off the couch. He didn't want to do nothing for nobody. He made everything worse. You don't want people saying that about you. You don't want that. This is what I told our son. I said, when you are at your funeral, man, if you a real man, you want people at your funeral to say, my life is better because that guy was in it. You want people to say, if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be where I am right now. You want people to say, man, he really, ooh, man, he's sturdy. He came through for me. He had my back. This guy, you want people saying things like that. You don't want people to literally go from a good life to a bad life because you were there. And that's the part that confuses me. Because I would ask Callie, well, you're a Disney princess. You're doing really well. Why in the world would you want to go have a baby with a man that's going to have you on the internet singing Destiny's Child songs because your life is suddenly so hard? Suddenly, you've been demoted from a Disney princess. You had access to the fairy tale to a struggling single mom, who's got to pay all the bills because ain't nobody helping. This is weird for me. I don't understand that. That's a very bad investment. Your portfolio is declining in value because you're not doing proper analysis on the assets that you're adding to the portfolio. You're not taking the time to properly vet the investments that you're making in your life. And I get it though. You're young. You're young and love makes us stupid. I understand all that. But what we got to understand is the presence of culture in all this. If you don't understand how culture um plays a part in all of this, then I feel bad for you. It's culture. And it's uniquely black culture. Black people, we the only ones on earth who think that 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 sleeping with a rapper with babies mamas is going to make your life better, or somehow that's going to give you clout, or somehow that's going to improve your situation. It doesn't improve your situation. I know a lot of rappers. I'm not just a regular. I have famous friends that are rappers, and I'm like, ooh, I would never ever have a baby with you because you're a bum. Right? But that's what it is. They pay you money. The white man will sell you the liquor bottle and then lock you up for being drunk, and so they get paid to be to behave in a specific way. And unfortunately, some of that behavior is degeneracy. Some of that behavior is not healthy. Anyway, let me get back to it. Let me stop. And I just want y'all to understand when we talk about economics, if you can't make decisions like this in a proper way, it's going to ruin your finances. I don't care how hard you work. And I say this, and it's a sensitive issue for me because I know black women who were doing great and kicking ass and taking names and literally got murdered by the crappy little man they decided to put next to them. I know men who were doing really well, who were on top of the world, kicking butt and taking names, who brought the wrong woman into their life, and next thing you know, everything falls apart. She done took all your stuff. You done worked your whole life to raise all this money. She wasn't shooting no jumpers in the gym, but now you got to give all your money to this lady who never loved you in the first place because you didn't take time to properly vet your investments. All this is standard portfolio analysis. If you work for BlackRock, which has $9 trillion in assets, probably 10 by now, they just bought a big chunk of the Panama Canal. I guarantee you that BlackRock spends a significant amount of time analyzing every investment that they make. They carefully assess every situation that they're going to walk into. They do not tread lightly. They do not just walk into stuff and hope for the best. And so honestly, if you want to talk about what a good life looks like to me, it's where you take the time to analyze every new situation you're involved in the same way you would if you worked for BlackRock. But some of y'all will go work a job at a company and take better care of that white man's assets than you will take of your own assets in your own life. You will value his assets more than you value whatever you've worked for in your own life. And you'll put it at risk and somebody takes it and then you go claim victim. You cannot claim victim when you are also the victimizer. Or if you do, then that means that that's between you, God, and your therapist. Can't nobody help you with that. So let's keep going here. Let me keep reading here. So this is DDG and Halle Bailey. So they had a baby named Halo, apparently. That's a great name. So DDG claimed during the live stream that he'd been struggling to see Halo for months, alleging that Halle only wanted him to only allowed him quality time when their relationship was stable. He stated that he would number the days he didn't see his son on his daily streams, implying Halle was restricting access. So what's going on here? Is he's on a PR campaign, and and I mentioned this to you yesterday, that when you have something to protect, when you have assets to protect, which for her multi-million dollar asset is her brand, you have to be really careful. When you have a lot to lose, you have to be careful entangling yourself with people who have nothing to lose. So for him, it's all about, like, look, you're the one that's got a lot to lose. I'm just a YouTube streamer. I'm not gonna really lose subscribers or anything. If I get into it with you, it's only gonna elevate my clout. Like, I think I heard somebody say, you'll never have a hater doing better than you. So what's happened here is that she's up here, economically and otherwise. He's down here. He does well, but he's not a Disney princess. And so he's sort of saying, I'm going to use this smear campaign to go online and ruin your reputation so that movie studios won't want to deal with you. Corporate sponsors aren't going to deal with you because they're going to look at you as the evil baby's mama who blocks her child's father from seeing his son. Let's see here. So this followed earlier hints from DDG around 8 months ago, where he suggested that she was keeping him from Halo. So this has been going on for a while. Those specifics at that time remain vague. So Halle responded indirectly on March 8th of 2025, that's yesterday, by posting adorable footage of Halo on X, caption, quote, "Guys, I'm crying. He actually knows Ariel is me." And that's interesting because if you know, Ariel was the Disney Little Mermaid that she played, right? So there was a cute video of the adorable little baby who's basically watching. He's like, "Oh my God, that's my mommy," right? And that's kind of cool, right? And I think about that because this tells you how entangled that, she knows her brand is with this whole Disney thing, that this Disney thing's important, and she's trying to sort of, I think, maintain and protect that image. Like, I'm a good mom. I want to remind you that this is what I've done. I was Ariel in a Disney movie, and this is relevant, right? So then it says, like, let's see, this came shortly after DDG's accusation. So right after she's accused of being a bad mom who's blocking the father from seeing the baby, she posts the baby and posts the Disney stuff. That's really interesting. So this led some to interpret it as a subtle counter narrative, right? So this is what PR ends up becoming. PR ends up becoming about controlling narratives, right? So she's trying to control the narrative by saying, I'm not going to address you directly, but what I am going to do is I'm going to create another narrative that my baby loves me and I'm a great mom, and that he saw me on a Disney movie, right? So let's keep going here. So this focuses on her bond with Halo rather than engaging directly with the claims, right? Because people up here don't want to engage with people down here. People down here they try to engage people up here. Like, this is how, this just from a financial brand building standpoint. Anybody know how 50 Cent became famous? Anybody? How did 50 Cent become 50 Cent? He used to be a nickel. He used to be, a dime. Then he became 50 Cent. And then he eventually became a quarter. Now he's 50 Cent. How did 50 Cent become famous? There was a couple significant incidents that occurred that blew up 50 Cent's brand. One was his story. He had a narrative, right? Stories are very powerful in marketing and in business. Stories are everything. And so he had a story. I got shot 9 times. And if you notice in his branding, he repeated that story over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, because that's what elevated him above all the other rappers. What was the other thing that elevated him? It was an encounter with another rapper who was doing better than him by the name of Jay-Z. And if you remember, 50 Cent talks about how Jay-Z got so frustrated that 50 Cent had called him out, that he goes in front of 100,000 people and he says something like, he says, "I'm all about dollars. Who gives a F about 50 Cent?" And the whole crowd starts roaring. But 50 Cent said, I was really happy that he said that, because suddenly there was 100,000 people who knew who 50 Cent was. So ultimately, what tends to happen in the whole brand building process is the people down here are yelling at the people up here, hoping that one of them will respond, and that will elevate the brand, right? That's why a lot of people up here, if they're smart, they don't respond. In fact, I can speak on a personal experience with that. Back when I was on the faculty at Syracuse and no one knew who I was, I got into a beef with Bill O'Reilly from Fox News. He was the biggest brand at the time. His show was #1 in the country at the time, and he did a whole hour-long episode calling me a racist because I just told him that he needs to stop being, a bigot, right? And so anyway, but of course Fox News, you know how Fox News is. They do what they do. And my sister called me. My sister said, "Coco, they talking about you like a dog on Fox News." And literally, like Laura Ingraham, like they had every segment. They had three big segments. They were each like 15 minutes each. Every segment, they would bring on a different guest and they would show this angry looking black professor at Syracuse. They didn't actually hear the words I was saying because they know I can defend myself and they know that I'm smarter than them. So they didn't actually want to know what I was saying. It was how I looked saying it, right? So it was the optics, right? So they took the video, they darkened the video to make me look scarier. And I could have been talking about how beautiful it was outside, but it didn't matter because I looked like an angry black man. That's what Fox does. They scare old white people. And so anyway, they did this whole episode, and then one of the Fox reporters came to my campus, and he goes to the chancellor. Now, the chancellor of the campus is my boss's boss. Right? I'm just a little tiny assistant professor. I just been there for maybe 3 years. Nobody knew who I was. But suddenly they're going to the boss's boss and saying, you have a racist on your campus, right? Now, it was kind of tough. It was complicated, right? Because there was a lot of heat there, and that led to a lot of problems with Syracuse, but it's fine. I told them I'd sue them and they pay me money, so I don't care about that. But here's the thing. Uh, After that happened, even though the publicity was negative, my profile elevated tremendously. Suddenly, 10 million people were like, who is this racist professor at Syracuse University? Now, you know I'm not racist. I don't hate white people. I've never hated white people. I ain't got time to hate nobody. But I will speak honestly about race in America. I speak honestly about what's going on in our community. And in fact, I've achieved the perhaps unique and unfortunate task of getting both black and white people to be mad at me. That's how I know I'm doing my job because I will call out everything. I call out when black folks when we acting stupid. I call out white folks when they acting stupid. So I really got no friends, but that's okay. I got y'all. Y'all love me, and I love you too. So my point is to say that when you're down here, somebody up here might think like, "Oh, I'm gonna punish him by saying bad things about him." But no, what you're actually doing is you're elevating that person because attention is a commodity. Attention is a financial commodity. Everybody that you see on YouTube, all they're doing is they're fighting for attention. And speaking on that, just from a financial standpoint, be really careful thinking that you can build a career as an influencer. Studies show that I think over 90% of all influencers make less than $10,000 a year or something ridiculous like that. Like influencers don't really make money on average. There are a few at the top, but and that they eat really good. I want to say that the top 10% of influencers make 90% of the money. So if you make that top 10%, good for you. But it's really becoming a lot like trying to get into the NBA or the NFL. You have a lot of young people who are like, yeah, I'm gonna be an influencer just like DDG. And no, you're not. You're going to have some little Twitch stream that nobody watches, and you're going to get a check from YouTube or Twitch for like 90 cents or something. And then you'll find out that TikTok, if you have a video that gets 1 million views, that TikTok will pay you $40 for that video. And you're going to be pissed off about that. So ultimately, what's best really just if you talk to your kids and they say, Dad, I want to be an influencer, tell them to go study business. That's what you tell them to do. You tell them that they need to study business. They need to understand how to acquire a customer, how to market to a customer, how to make an offer, how to product development, how to manage a team. Like all these things come into play, and then content becomes a supporter to the overall business. Content is not a business. Content creation for most people is not a business. Maybe if you're Mr. Beast, who is, probably made a couple $1 billion by now. For most other people, that's just not the case. So just keep that in mind. If you have children that are like, I want to be an influencer. Yeah, good luck with that. You're gonna be real mad because the algorithm is not your friend. All right. So anyway, with that being said, one thing I want to remind everybody is I mentioned that book, Financial Lovemaking, and I also want to mention that if you want a digital copy of that book, you can get it for free. If you go to boyceandalicia.com, boyceandalicia.com, at that website, you can get a free copy of the book. And so feel free to go there. Also, I want to remind everybody that if you are in business with us, we started our Black Wealth Ambassadors program where you can buy any of our books and flashcards and stuff at a really steep discount. And if you want to start a business with us and distribute and we will let you make your money, feel free to do that. You can text the word wealth to the phone number 87948. So text wealth to 87948. And what I'll do is I'll send you all special, exclusive, steep discounts. For example, my book, The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power, you can buy that for $15 but the regular price is 40. So if you want, you can resell it for 25, 30, 35, 40, whatever you want to sell it for. And I'll sign every single book. I've signed probably 2,000 books this week. I can sign another 50,000. I don't care. You guys love the book. It's great for your book clubs, things like that. So I invite you to join us and to go into business with us because we can't do this by ourselves. Your help is really important, and we want to help you as well. So I believe everybody can win. Everybody can make money. So anyway, if you want to get the discounted copies of my book, you can go to 10commandments.boycewatkins.com. That's 10commandments.boycewatkins.com. That's the number 10. All right, so let me read more of this here. So this is Halle Bailey and the baby dad DDG. And so let's see. Despite the breakup, DDG and Halle have maintained some public unity for Halo. They celebrated his first birthday together. However, DDG's recent comments suggest underlying friction, particularly around custody or visitation, etc. And so here are a few little financial. I gave you a few financial theories yesterday to kind of link to this love and money conversation. A lot of us deal with that, and I guarantee. And one thing I want to encourage you to do is don't fall for the hype. Don't fall for the lie that you shouldn't blend love and money together. Love and money naturally are connected. So that means if you have financial expectations for your partner, that doesn't make you a gold digger. That makes you practical. It doesn't mean there's not a trade-off, but it's okay to have financial expectations rather than signing up for something that's going to make you uncomfortable. Same thing is true for anybody. So if you're a man who's got a lot going on financially, you probably need to pick women in your life who are going to protect your resources. One of the biggest rules of wealth, the fourth rule of wealth, I gave you the first three steps. I'll give them to you in a second. But the fourth step is protecting what you have. It's preserving the wealth. So if I'm a person who's worked his whole life and I've been shooting jumpers in the gym and I've acquired a little something that I want to protect, why in the world am I going to invite women or people into my life that are not going to protect what I've worked hard for? And a lot of times that financial consciousness of wealth protection doesn't enter our psyche. So if I'm a guy who likes to just sleep with any woman that walks by, well, then what I'm doing is I'm exposing myself to all kinds of things, diseases, unwanted pregnancies, false accusations, but also other things that can be very, very, very expensive. There was I remember I told you all that story about the time I worked at AOL Black Voices and I got the phone call from the lady who she said she worked for a Brazilian butt doctor. This doctor from Brazil would come up every 6 months and all these strippers would be waiting for him and he would inject their booties with only God knows what, but they would all walk out looking like cartoon characters with big, gigantic, inflatable butts. And one thing she told me about was a friend of hers who they had a little group. It was three women, and basically they would study the dumbest people in the room. And the dumbest people in the world to them were athletes and rappers. And they said athletes and rappers are stupid because they will sleep with anybody and they don't understand the risk of doing that, right? This is what I'm sure y'all remember the guy, Coach Prime brought that one lady in that really drop dead gorgeous, very pretty girl. I forgot her name though, Brittany something. And he brought her to campus because she literally did a video where she said athletes are dumb. She said if you want to get $1 million, just go get pregnant by an athlete, which sounds like a dangerous way to make money because it's nasty. But still, that was. She did a video about that, and so anyway. What they did, they knew that some athletes just don't, their financial consciousness is not very high. And they have that old saying that a fool and his money will soon part ways. So if you are engaged in a foolish culture, and you have lots of money, then eventually your money will disappear. You will not have your money anymore. And so what these ladies would do is they would study athletes and rappers and they'd find out who's coming into town. They'd find out what they like and they would just set him up. They would just kind of, shake booty in front of him or whatever, get his attention, get him back to the hotel room and they would drug him. And when they drugged him, they would blackmail him. They would put that one of the girls in the group was like 15 or 16, and they would put her in the bed with him and take pictures. And then when he woke up, they would blackmail the guy and they'd say, "Give us $10,000 or we're going to send these pictures to your wife. We're going to send these pictures to your team. We're going to send these pictures to the media and you're going to lose everything." And so the men would pay the money and that was their little hustle. So ultimately, if you're not financially aware, if you're not financially conscious, then a financially conscious person around you is going to be watching you carefully so they can figure out how to get access to what you have. I've seen this, and I got other stories I could tell, but because for the sake of time, I'll save these stories for another day. But just know that that financial consciousness piece, there's a reason why I call this class financial consciousness. It's because I said in order to protect and to get money, you've got to think about your surroundings. You got to think about what you have going on. You got to think about what you have to protect. To understand risk, financial risk, you must have a risk assessment. A risk assessment comes from a risk awareness. Like, what are the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats in the environment around me, and how do I make sure I'm prepared for that? Teach that to your kids. Because we don't talk about that enough, and that's why every time you see some celebrity that loses everything, I want you to think about what I just said. All right, so here's a few little kind of angles I want. I think that the Halle Bailey, I keep wanting to call her Halle Berry. The Halle Bailey situation kind of hits on that you can kind of think about. Number one is there's something called resource dependency theory, and what that basically speaks to is that typically the person that has the most resources in the relationship does have a certain amount of power, and so effectively, Halle, she has her fame backed by Disney and everything else, and much more earning power. And even though DDG is doing well, the reality is that DDG is able to position himself as a victim by basically saying this big powerful woman is forcing me to pay money and we know she doesn't need the money, she's just bullying me, right? And it will be hard for him to do that if she was a regular person. In fact, if she was a regular person, nobody would care, but because she's this big powerful Disney princess, it does start to matter. There's also another whole thing called that connects to economic bargaining power, which is basically what they might call the high cost of co-parenting. Co-parenting is very expensive. Co-parenting, and this is another reason why keeping the family together is a good financial strategy. Co-parenting just costs a lot of money. You have to maintain two households. You've got things like child support. If you ever want to see a broke man, go talk to a man who's paying child support on 5 or 6 kids. That man ain't got nothing. I mean, and ladies, if you think about marrying a guy that's in that situation, well, you better be bringing all the money because all his money is going to be eaten up by the baby's mamas. You're in a polygamous marriage, whether you like it or not. And the polygamy comes from the fact that he's got 4 or 5 people that are already tugging on his resources. So, unless you're talking about Nick Cannon or somebody like that, it's very difficult for most people to support 5 or 6 households at once. But that's what happens when you don't engage in proper Planned Parenthood, when you don't prepare and plan, how you're going to spread your seed, how you're going to build your family, then you end up in these crazy economic situations. So basically, um, this power imbalance does lead to an economic negotiation. Also, there's kind of a Disney princess premium where which adds to the wealth and status imbalance. And so, effectively, the Disney princess is kind of like this elevated cultural and persona, right? That has a lot of what you might call financial capital. So basically, her choosing DDG to have a baby with probably cost her at least 10 or 20 million dollars in opportunities because all that Disney magic disappears when you start getting into ghetto hood trashy crap, right? When you start getting into silly stuff that's very public and very embarrassing, that's really hit her legacy quite a lot, right? So the wealth that she would be able to leave to her child has been significantly impacted by the fact that she did not protect that wealth by choosing a situation that was going to be stable, right? But you're young. You're young. When you're young, you fall in love. Love makes us stupid, and nobody was there to really mentor her out of that and to help her understand the long-term implications. Because when you choose somebody to have a child with, I was mentoring a young lady about this. I said, well, just understand, like this guy's going to be around. He's going to be in your life for the next 50 years. And she's like, no, no, he's only going to be around till the baby's 18. I said, no. I said the baby's gonna have there's gonna be other things that happen in the child's life after 18. Like he's part of your family forever. And so did you think about that when you decided that you wanted to sleep with him. Like, do you understand that when you make a baby with somebody, they're kind of there for good. They don't ever go away. But anyway, moving on with that, there's also another angle in terms of the public stage, right? So with DDG, he makes these social media accusations, and Hallie has to go into PR mode. And with DDG framing himself to be the victim, and Hallie has to use silence to protect her Disney image, so she can't respond. And his goal is to talk as loud as possible. Her goal is to be quiet and to deflect the conversation, which is probably still stressing her out. Also, there's a conversation where he mentioned, I could have sworn he mentioned something about her possibly having postpartum depression and that this might be affecting her behavior. And that's a very real thing. And in fact, I think that all men who have children or families should be educated on not just postpartum depression, but just an honest and politically incorrect assessment of the fact that women's moods do change. Hormones matter, and I know that no one else says this because they want to act like men and women are the same, and that everybody can be trans. Like I can wake up tomorrow and decide I want to be Joyce Watkins instead of Boyce Watkins. But the reality is that women and men are not the same. And part of my preparation for being a husband was to know that there's some days when my wife walks in and is a big bundle of joy, and some days she walks in like the freaking Terminator. And I got to know how to manage that. And I have to love her and care about my situation and my family enough to have the patience to deal with that. And also, not to mention the fact that black men and black women have been through a lot. So a lot of us show up in relationships with a ton of trauma, and that trauma shows itself in a lot of different ways. So if you love black people, if you love black women, you got to deal with black women. If you love black men, you got to deal with black men. And y'all know that some of us ain't quite right. And I'm not just talking about the men. Ladies, stop letting the world make you think that it's only the men's fault. No, it ain't only the men's fault. Men, women, a lot of y'all got issues. Most of y'all did, a lot of y'all didn't have a daddy in the house. That right there is a massive issue. And a lot of people act like that doesn't matter. No, it does matter. It matters a lot, a lot, a lot. So, mental health is connected to financial health. Why? Well, because if you manage your mental health, then you are also able to show up better for your relationships, create stability there. Stable relationships are a wealth builder. You can build wealth in stable relationships. It's very hard to build wealth in unstable relationships. It's like trying to build a skyscraper in the middle of a tornado. You cannot build a skyscraper in the middle of a tornado. So you got to calm down the weather, get some sunshine, and then you start building brick by brick. But if you are letting, the tornado inside of you or the tornado in your relationship constantly dictate every move that you make, where everything is nothing but a trauma response, how the hell you think you're going to build wealth? Everything about wealth building requires an emotional disposition that's the complete opposite of what trauma gives you. Everything. Wealth building requires patience and perspective and right and long-term thinking, long-term planning. All these are this is emotional maturity. This is emotional maturity. So if you haven't healed from the crap that happened to you when you were 7, how the hell how are you gonna be emotionally mature enough to ever become a millionaire? I want you to think about that. Most wealthy people that build wealth brick by brick and do it the right way and then preserve that wealth are chill, level-headed people on some level, right? They have some ability to back up, think through their decisions, and move strategically. Moving strategically is not the same as moving emotionally, right? So if you're just moving emotionally, like there's a pretty girl, I'm gonna go sleep with her. There's a great man, I'm gonna go have a baby with him. Next thing you know, your life just becomes this kind of chaotic thing that ultimately becomes financially draining. So let me keep reading here. All right. One thing, so about the postpartum thing, DDG did suggest that Halle Bailey was struggling from some postpartum depression. I don't know if that's true or not. Um, but then she says, I'm protecting my son from his social media games. And ultimately, these sorts of mental health issues can highly impact not just the relationship, but the finances and the financial outcomes of it. Also, here's a few other one other thing I'll throw in here, and this is the last piece I'll mention on this. is that this situation was fascinating to me because, well, yesterday we talked about another Disney princess. I call them all Disney princesses, even though she wasn't officially a princess. But Sky Jackson, Sky Jackson, I knew about her because our girls are about her age or a little bit younger than her, and they looked up to her. She also had a baby with a rapper, and this was a white boy, I think. He looked white. Maybe he was light skinned. I have no idea, but he seemed white. And he also has the criminal record. And it's also another situation where people are like surprised by that, right? And so it's really interesting because if you look at both of those situations, you can see similarities in terms of how um, rap culture, extreme toxic rap culture, not all rap culture, but most extreme toxic rap culture is built on getting attention. It's built on rebellious kind of bad boy behavior. That's pretty much what it is. And with that, what's interesting about that is that there's a lot of studies to show that around adolescence, women are attracted to the bad boys because it reveals confidence and high testosterone behavior, things like that. Even elephants and stuff, when they get to be adolescents, they start doing crazy stuff to impress women. And the women, they like those guys that are going that the guy's going to jump off the building or whatever, right? And what's unfortunate about that though is that when you're talking about things like building a family and having babies with people, it's a long-term play. It's a long-term investment. And so if you ever want to end up in a bad situation financially or otherwise, keep making long-term decisions based on short-term realities, right? Keep letting temporary situations lead you to make permanent choices, right? It's similar to like how when they talk about suicide for like if a teenager takes his own life, it's unfortunate because you gave a permanent solution to a temporary problem. You're upset because the girl don't like you. You'd be over it in about 3 months if somebody talked you through it. But because you don't see that right now, you just go ahead and you just take your own life. Now you're missing. Now you're 16. You're gonna miss your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, your 60s, your 70s, and your 80s because of some chick that don't even like you right now, right? And that's we've seen this. We've seen this a lot. And that to me, that same sentiment is not completely disconnected from what sex can do as well. Sex can lead you to make a permanent solution or a permanent outcome for a temporary situation, and then it's almost like a bad loan. It's like getting a predatory loan. A predatory loan is similar in the sense that what they do is they take advantage of your temporary problem to lock you into a permanent financial hell, right? Like they say, "Oh, you need money? You need $500 to pay the rent? We'll get you that $500 because we care about you." So they give you the $500 and then they say, well, just make sure you sign this contract. And this long contract with a lot of fine print that basically says that if you're late a little bit, the interest rate is going to be so high that by the time you get done paying this $500 loan, you will have given us $3,000. That's predatory lending. And I almost call that the economic devil. The devil can bless you too. And when the devil blesses you, though, the devil's going to extract rent. He's going to extract a payment like you would not believe. So, to some extent, life is similar in other areas. You have times where it's like, oh, yeah, there's a pretty girl. I'm going to go and enjoy myself right now. And next thing you know, you're paying for that for the rest of your life. So, that one decision that you made to get that hour of pleasure, whatever it is for you, it has cost you for the next 50 years. And if you don't have perspective, if you don't have financial consciousness, then you won't see it in the moment. That's why the healing is so important. That's why avoiding the trauma responses is so important. That's why it's important to know how to breathe, take a step back and say, okay, what am I doing here? And what's going to be the implication of this? Do you know what happens? Let me just share this with you for anybody that cares, anybody that can benefit from this. Do you know every time my wife gets on my nerves? Because I'm sorry, if you get married, your spouse going. Anybody know what I'm talking about? Like you get people act like marriage and stuff is a fairy tale. It ain't no damn fairy tale. Get that out of your head. It ain't a fairy tale. It's real, right? So every time my wife gets on my nerves, I'll stop and I'll breathe and I'll step back and I'll ask myself, is this really going to matter in 5 years? And then I realize I'm not even going to remember this argument in 5 years. So then I'll just let it go. I'll say, you know what? It don't matter. I'm gonna go. I'll be outside. I'll be in the kitchen. I'm going for a ride. I'll see you later. I'm going in my office, right? And And I think that my wife to this day, I don't know if my wife knows that I even think this way, but that's what ends up surprising her when I can just let something go. I let stuff roll off my back because I'm like, no, this is a big picture thing. I want to be 85 years old and look back and say, I was consistent. I built a family. I was there for people that mattered for me. Boyce was solid. Boyce was a benefit to the lives of the people that he engaged with. And so, because that's my bigger goal, I'm not going to mess all that up because I want to argue with you over something stupid. I'm just not going to do it. You understand? So that, and if you don't understand, that's an investing decision. That's me protecting an asset. My asset, my greatest asset is my family. I love the people in this house. Yeah, I'm a bonus dad. I know that. And I had some guys make fun of me for that, but I don't. I have no shame in that. I love these kids. These kids are amazing. And I take tremendous pride in knowing that I forged very solid relationships with them, which required me to grow in certain areas. I had to learn how to be a different version of myself in order to do that. Because kids ain't impressed with whatever you've done. They don't care about what you accomplished in the 90s and the 2000s and all. They don't care about none of that. All they look at is what kind of person are you and how do you impact my life right now? And so that required a whole shift in thinking. Don't nobody really they're not real impressed at all. Like if I see y'all somewhere, if I'm in a restaurant, somebody wants my autograph and wants to take a selfie, they that's like not a big deal for them, right? So you have to find other ways to connect to people, and it does require you to be able to think a little bit. So think about your life a little bit, right? So what last thing I'll leave you with is I think that one thing you might want to do, and maybe because it's Sunday, this hopefully will help you, is I want you to really think about your life in those three key areas: health, wealth, and relationships. And I want you to imagine what your life looks like if you're physically and mentally healthy. What does that look like for you? And once you visualize it, maybe you make a plan to accomplish that, right? A lot of us maybe we need to lose weight. I'm not taking Ozempic because I think those like Ozempic drugs and stuff. I keep waiting for them to come out with like the side effects that nobody knew about because everybody's so quick to take a damn pill and they don't even know what's in the damn pill. I'm not like that. I'm not, I feel like I don't trust the medical profession like that. I feel like they overdiagnose and they always want to give you a pill for everything. I'm gonna take my ass to the gym and take my chances at Planet Fitness. What does it look like for you to be mentally and physically healthy, right? There's tools out there for mental health. There's all kinds of stuff out there that can help you. You don't have to take those drugs and all that. In my opinion, I'm not telling you to stop taking your medication. Some of y'all might need it, but really, I think that a lot of things that we apply medication to can be solved in a natural way. I really believe that. And then I want you to look at your relationships. Look at your key relationships with your children, your partner, your friends, and then look at the relationships that add value and the ones that don't add value, the ones that you kind of need to mitigate or adjust or eliminate, right? And then look at your wealth. Do you have enough cash flow coming in and do you feel financially secure? Is your wealth going up or is it going down? And then think about maybe baby steps you can take that will improve your life in those three areas. I guarantee you that if you improve your life in those three areas, health, wealth, and relationships, you will be a happier black person. That's it. Like, and that's if you want to know what my goal is, like when I'm talking to you about stuff and people say, well, what does it mean for black people to be free? And I don't get into all the political conversation and all that. I'm like, my goal is to see if I can help black people become mentally and physically healthier, have better relationships, and have more wealth in their bank account. I believe that if you accomplish that, and these are things that can be done without the help of a politician, you don't need Al Sharpton to help you do that. You don't need nobody. Really, all you need is yourself. And this is an educational process. So my thought is, if we learn these things and apply these things and just keep a consciousness about how we're doing in each of those areas and address the areas that need to be addressed, then you talk, that's how you improve the lives of black people. One person at a time. I don't think there's a magical fix it pill that black people can all take. Like everybody vote for this politician or everybody go do this or go do that. But everybody boycott Target together. That's all nice and good and it feels good, but but my question is, does it improve your life? Even when you go see the pastor on Sunday, I know what pastors do. Pastors can give you a pathway to your spiritual fulfillment. They can also give you that boost that we need, right, to get through the week, get through the day. But then I would ask the pastor, like, okay, are the lives of the people in your congregation better because they're coming to church? Or are you just making them feel better? If you're just making them feel better but they're not actually better, then that's like putting a person in a jail cell and just giving them enough crack and heroin that they don't realize that they're locked up. Do you understand? Like literally, like I could, like if you take somebody, you ever see like a drug addict on the corner who is literally looking crazy, they stinking, they ain't got nowhere to live, it's freezing cold outside, but because the drugs are so good, they don't even notice. Their brain has just their mind has just left their body, so they're not even aware. They don't even care how they look, how they smell, how they don't care that their family doesn't talk to them anymore because the drug is so good. That's what I think about when I see some of the things that are used to kind of manipulate people into making if someone is giving you an inspiring speech or making you laugh or like comedian. I think that's why we love comedians because that heals the pain from the trauma and whatever, right? It makes you feel like you're better off, but you're really not. I think that's a lie. That's all living a lie. So my thought is to that the goal is not just to have you feel good. I want you to feel good, but I want you to be good. Do you understand? Like I want your life to really be better. I don't want you to just think it's better. You know, this is not opium for the masses. I'm not good at giving the feel good speeches. That's not the goal. The goal is to say, what are practical steps we can take, little things we can do that will improve our lives, that will, really fill up the bank account, right? Really help you to like really feel mentally and physically healthy. Really put you in a position that's more secure. And that's it. I'm done talking. Thank you guys for listening. I appreciate your attention, and I hope that this discussion was helpful for you. You guys know how I am. I like to talk about a little bit of everything. I like to talk about life and then connect it back to the economics. So I hope that that's okay. So if you want to get the e-copy of that book, Financial Lovemaking, just go to boyceandalicia.com. You can have it for free. So boyceandalicia.com. Also, we're going to do stock market Tuesdays on Tuesday. So if you have an interest in the stock market, we're up to 88% of you are invested in the market. I want that to be 100% very soon. So if you'd like to join us, you can do a free trial. Just go to drboystockmarket.com. That's our stock market investors club. And last but not least, Dr. Alicia is doing a session tonight, a private session in her book club on how to keep conflict from destroying your relationships. So don't go fighting with nobody. Don't go fighting with your baby mama. Come talk to Dr. Alicia. Let her help you. She's good at this stuff. This is what she's been doing for 25 years. So if you'd like to be notified when Dr. Alicia starts her book club tonight, or you'd like to get an invitation, text the word love to the number 87948. So you can text love to 87948 on your phone. And also, you can go to coachingwithdralicia.com. That's her website. And it's someone was asking about stock options. Yeah, we're going to do stock options this week. I'll send you all a message as well for the stock options class. So have a good day, everybody. God bless you. Thank you guys for listening. I hope you have a wonderful Sunday. See you later. Bye-bye. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Come on in. I hope you guys are having a great day. Welcome. It's so good to see you. This is Money in the Morning. In case you don't know, my name is Dr. Boyce Watkins, and we're hanging out today. And I got some really interesting stuff I want to talk about. I want to ask you all, how many of you know about Sky Jackson? Sky Jackson is this Disney actress, and her boyfriend did this, or baby daddy, sorry, um, did this video called "How to Get a Celebrity Pregnant" or something, "How to Get a Famous Girl Pregnant," and and I thought this was really an interesting topic. Believe it or not, this is a massive, massive, massive financial conversation, or it can be made into one very easily. And so I thought that I would dive into that a little bit. Now, as I get started, one thing I want to let you guys know is that this week, if you do stock options with us, we're going to meet for the Prime program. So if you want to learn about generating income from stock options, stuff like that, just go to drboyceprime.com. Feel free to join us there. All right, and also another thing is, I want to let you guys know I send you guys a text every morning, and one thing I want to mention too is that to make it easier so that the link is not dead when you get there, I'm going to actually change when I send you the text. I'm going to give you the link to join us on whatever YouTube channel we're broadcasting from that day. And the reason I want to do that is because I realize that a lot of you may get the Zoom link too late. And when you come in, the Zoom is already gone and dead. So I figured if I send the YouTube link, you guys can come in, later in the day if you want to and check it out on the YouTube channel. So when you get the text, you will get the link to the Zoom. Now, if you, sorry, to the YouTube channel, but if you want to be in the Zoom, like if you want to be in the private Zoom where, like if we do a Q&A, I'll answer your question inside the Zoom, then you can just make sure you sign up, make sure you're registered on the Zoom. So the Zoom will send you a notification to let you guys know when we're about to throw down. All right, so let's hop into this. Okay, so there's this, give me a guess if you've heard of Sky Jackson. So Sky Jackson is this beautiful young lady. She's a I would say I call her, I would call her like a Disney princess, but she wasn't actually a princess. Like the other I think Halle Bailey, I think that was her name. She was on one of those shows and she was similar to Raven Simone in that she was super talented. She is super talented, not used to be. And she became really successful with Disney. And as you know, that's kind of the holy grail. That's the gold standard for actors and actresses. If you get a Disney deal, that pretty much means you've made it. I know that we've got a 14-year-old actress, singer, dancer in the house who would do anything to be in a Disney film or on a Disney show. And Scott Jackson achieved that dream. She went up there and did her thing, and she's super talented. And I don't know if she has any regrets in life or not. And I'm not here to give her any. But there is something that I really wanted to drill into on this today because I really think this is something that our community needs to talk about. And so what basically happened that was really interesting is Sky she had a baby. Babies are a blessing. I told you our black children are a blessing. Now, her child, I think her baby daddy is actually not black. So the ratchetry, the ghetto-ness that I'm about to describe does not have to be claimed by the black community. Let's just be clear. So his ghetto weird behavior does not, we don't have to own this one. Now, again, unless he's super light skinned or something, because black people come in all shapes and sizes. So who am I to judge whether or not somebody's black enough? But from what I saw in the video, I did not get the impression that her baby daddy was black. Now, but he's kind of remember that term wigger? Anybody remember that term wigger? Like wigger where you're white but you're whatever. I personally think that using the N word it should be kind of thrown out the window. I kind of feel like there's other words we can call ourselves. And in fact, I remember watching Kendrick Lamar get his Grammy, and I love Kendrick Lamar, I really do. But I thought it was really awkward to see this audience full of white people clapping, and they were playing the song, and I heard the N word about 5 times. The N word just black. Igga this, igga this, igga nigga, igga, 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 right? And the white people were clapping. And I was like, are any of these white people feeling awkward or uncomfortable? Or have they gotten so comfortable calling us the N word that or at least thinking it in their heads or us calling each other that it doesn't matter. I don't know if anybody else does anybody else think that's a little bit weird? I don't know. Am I the only weirdo in here that kind of just feels like maybe we can call ourselves something other than that? I'm not trying to be hating. I'm not trying to be anti-Kendrick, but you just think about your ancestors would get like somebody would call them that word and they would then cut their testicles off, right? Or they would hear that word and that's the last word they might hear before they get hung from a tree, right? So I kind of just thought it was really interesting. And this is why I believe black people don't have any friends. I'm sorry. This, in case you don't know, if you come in here, just know I'm gonna be a consistent black man every day. You might not like me. If you don't like me on Tuesday, you probably won't like me on Wednesday either. So I just want to make it real clear that I'm not going to change. And one thing about my blackness is that if something don't make no sense, I'm gonna say it because I'm like, well, it don't make no sense. Like, like why are so many people like arenas full of people cheering when black people get on stage and call ourselves the N-word? But then when we hear a white guy say it, we want to act all indignant and angry and how dare you? You're a racist, sir. Wait, he's racist. Well, you're racist against yourself. Like people, if I walk around and I call myself Dave and I say, hey, I'm Dave, and my friends are like, hey, what's up, Dave? And then somebody's like, hey, Dave. I'm like, I'm not Dave, I'm Boyce. Well, man, I just heard you call yourself Dave. You wrote Dave on your job application. You referred to yourself as Dave on many occasions. You said, Dave. What Dave likes to do is so. I don't understand that. I'm just gonna tell you the truth, But anyway, let's move on. So let's get back to this. All right. So the thing is, so Scott Jackson. this Disney princess has this baby with this guy. I wrote it down. It's really hilarious. His name is DeAndre Bergen, and his rap name, online name is Yerky Yerky. I don't know what a yerky. I know what beef jerky is, but yerky yerky, that's his name. Um, they've been dating since about December 2023, and she put a post up about their relationship, and then she took it down. And in 2024, November 2024, so that's a few months ago, Yerky Yerky was arrested in Cincinnati, Ohio, for a parole violation related to a previous juvenile case involving theft and weapons possession. So he likes to carry that tool with him, and apparently he steals stuff. And so this is what the Disney princess. This is. Isn't it funny? The good girls, they always like those bad boys that are like just absolutely ruin your life. Like that. I don't know that. That's so fascinating. I love to talk to a psychologist about that. Anyway, so he is on the rap scene. Oh, his social media name, Yerky Yerky's social media name is Rich and Violent, like rich and violent. So he's rich and he's violent, which that toxic hip hop culture they've been pushing on the black community all these years. They call it black culture now, but rich. Now I want you to be rich. I can show you how to be rich. That's easy. But I don't. Why we gotta be violent? Like, why we gotta be rich and violent? Like, if you're rich, you ain't gotta hurt nobody. You should be rich and peaceful. Now, if you're broke and violent, I understand that. That makes sense. You're mad. You want to get some money. But if you're rich, chill out. Anyway, let's keep going. So Yerky Yerky gets online, and there's this they called it, the Shade Room called it how to get he did they said he did a video called How to Get a Famous Girl Pregnant. Right. And I watched the video, and it wasn't actually him doing a video called Here's how you get a famous girl pregnant. First, you pull out your penis, and then number two, you have sex with her. Like no, no, no. He was in a conversation with a fellow Caucasoid, fellow melon deficient citizen. And they were talking, and the guy said, "Hey, yo, how they just like to imitate the worst of us." He's like, "Hey, yo, how you get a famous girl pregnant?" And then he goes, "Well, man," and he had all these diamonds in his teeth. Like, I don't know. I wonder if that's healthy, and I don't think that's healthy. And he's like, you gotta keep it P. You gotta keep it P. And I was like, I don't know what does keep it P mean? I looked it up. Keep it P is like keep it pimping. Like it's like an evolution of like, stay pimping, right? When they started teaching us how to hip hop taught us how to glorify sex traffickers, in case you wonder. Remember Snoop Dogg used to go to the award show and he would bring Bishop Magic Don Juan, the pimp, and now you got black men in prison for sex trafficking, right? Because they teach you this stuff. This is why you got to stop letting white folks tell you how to live your life, because they're going like Malcolm X used to say. He said he had a great saying. He used to say, "The white man will sell you the liquor bottle, and then he will lock you up for being drunk." So that's what they do in hip hop. They sell you the liquor bottle, and then they lock you up when you show up drunk. So anyway, with that said, now and I'm not here to gossip about Sky Jackson's life. And Sky Jackson, in case for those of y'all that don't think she's that famous, she's actually quite famous. If you ask your 17, 18, 19, 20-year-old child about her, especially if they watch Disney and you have daughters in the house, they know who Sky Jackson is. If Sky Jackson came into the house, she would be more famous than me or their mother, right? They would scream. So anyway, here's what I wanted to kind of address. So as this so you have Sky, who worked really hard to become this success on Disney, similar to Halle Bailey. I think both of them had babies with rappers. Halle Bailey. This is something you come to expect. When you get to be my age, you can predict things in advance. When I saw that she got pregnant with this rapper, I was like, yeah, they'll be broken up by the time the baby's about 4 months old, right? And that's exactly what happened, right? It's like, oh, the relationship got too hard, and da 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 da. And again, and what's really fascinating, because I was talking to two young people this week, both of them in their early 30s, about their children and about their relationships. And I said, one thing that people don't factor in our community anyway, and maybe in other communities too, is we don't really factor in how damaging it is to children when the parents just split up because they're just not comfortable anymore. When the relationship gets hard and you say, "Oh, well, I got to go live my life," whatever. I know personally, I to this day, I still thank my father, who was a really handsome young man, who was 21 years old, 22 years old, who chose to stay with me and my mother instead of like running the streets and doing his thing. I also thank my mother for putting up with some challenging situations with her in my relationship with with my father. And if you want to see how that story ends, when my mother took her last breath, Christmas Eve of 2024, it was my father who was laying right next to her when she died. And I imagine what life would have been like if my father had ran off and said, I got to keep it pee, yo, I got to keep it pee, and ran out and, decided to go get 10 other girls pregnant. And then my mother's dying alone years later. He's dying alone, right? Toward the end, they kind of needed each other. They needed each other, not just from an emotional standpoint, but also in terms of finances, right? And this is financial. This is why, in case y'all wonder, like why is he talking about Sky Jackson and rappers and babies mamas? Well, because all this links back to your economics. Let's do a reset here so we can be 100% crystal clear that this is a financial conversation. Do you understand? I'm a finance professor. Trust me, I'm a doctor. I'm a financial doctor. So I know what I'm doing. I know we all may be thinking, like, why is he talking about this and talking about that? No, I promise you. Give me a yes if you understand the financial implications of relationship management. Do y'all understand this? Okay, I have to do the reset. Some of y'all know this. Some of y'all have seen me do this before, but I have to do the reset for new people because they'll come in and they'll be like, I thought he was gonna tell me how to manage my 401k and how to minimize my taxes on my stock portfolio. And he up here talking about babies mamas and stuff. He crazy. No, I look at life and to remember, when you're diagnosing a financial illness, like when you're diagnosing the massive economic STDs that spread through the community, when you are diagnosing the financial cancer that exists, called broke Negroitis. It's a disease. It's real. We're making a vaccine right now. Um, when you analyze this, you cannot analyze it in a vacuum. You can't analyze it in a vacuum, right? If someone shows up to the doctor and they've got all these symptoms, all these things going wrong with the body, you can't just look at the kidneys without also looking to see what other pre-existing conditions are there. What's happening with the lungs? What's happening with the heart? What's happening with the blood? You got to look at all these things. It's a system. Do you understand? It's a system. So what I want you to really understand is the systematic brokenness that leads to the decline in black wealth that largely starts with very horrifically bad relationship choices that many of us make early in life. It's true. I talked again, I mentored there's two young people I mentored, and we talked extensively this week about their relationships. And I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna get back to the Sky Jackson thing in a minute. And they're a little bit older than Sky. They're about 30, 31. And I don't tell people what to do. That's not even when I'm talking to you about investing. By the way, remind me before we're done, I'll give you a stock that I'm going to buy. For those of you that are not yet invested in the stock market, this is a stock I'm actually going to buy. So I'll share this with you in a minute. Um, and I said, if I was your age, the investments I would make at that stage of my life, one, I would have put more money in the stock market. Most people don't even know that if you put, a couple $1,000s a year, or maybe a few $100s a month, or a couple hundred a month in the stock market since say like the year 2000, you'd be insanely wealthy right now. Like a lot of y'all shouldn't, if you don't know it now, you know. You'd be very wealthy. And by the way, most experts predict that Bitcoin's going to be worth $1.5 million by the year 2030. So that's money being made in slow motion. That's a slow moving train that you can hop on at any moment. I know a lot of you are not going to get on the train, but I know a lot of you are. So I want to just tell you this. This is because all I do, you're talking to a guy who takes in financial information all day, every day. That's all I do. And I sit there and I just listen to financial stuff. But with that said, I said that's the one investment I would make. The other investment I would make is an investment in my relationships, right? Um, I would probably take a little money or whatever I could afford, and I would get if I found a woman that I loved, which I did. I had a woman I loved in my 20s, and I said we loved each other a lot, but we didn't know how to love each other. We didn't know how to resolve conflict. We didn't know how to properly communicate. I didn't know how women think and how women are different from men. Because we live in a society that lies to you. We have a society that tells you that men and women are the same. Gender is a figment of your imagination. That's why your daughter might be playing basketball against a dude who decided to become a girl last week and all these other crazy things that people, no, I believe these things. I believe that men and women were the same, and that's just simply not true. I read a book by Dr. Barbara DeAngelis called What Women Want Men to Know. And she had a section in the book I'll never forget called 15 Minutes in the Mind of a Woman. And she'd interviewed thousands of women, and she was a woman. And I read it, and I was like, oh my God, this is insane. It was like walking into the house of horrors. I was like, I didn't know women had all this stuff going through their head. And I would call my female friends, and I was like, is that what y'all really think? And she would have the top 10 turnoffs for women and the top 20 turnoffs. And I'd be like, does this really turn you on? And they'd be like, oh yeah, I love when a man does it. Or did y'all really hate this? Oh my God, ugh, I hate when a guy does it. I'm like, what, so peanut butter bothers you that much? I'm kidding. It wasn't peanut butter, but it was something weird like that, right? That's what it might as well have been. But my point is to say that if I'd known these things when I was younger, life would have been simpler. There wouldn't have been as much of an economic cost that comes from bad relationships. Meaning, well, number one, I did 18 years in child support court. I paid every penny. I remember my lawyer sending me the email saying, "You paid all your child support. Now you're done." I was like, because you don't want to do that. That's rough. And and I didn't make more babies. I don't have babies scattered everywhere. I adopted kids. I scooped kids up because I found that I love children, and black children are a blessing. And I loved marrying a woman with three kids, and I talk to her three kids every day. And one of them, I was working with her last night, and she, when you buy my book, she ships it out to you. Her name is Nicole. She's super smart, and it's just an honor. It's a great opportunity. But with that said, though, it's one of these things where I began to understand, like, okay, I get it now. I get why black wealth is declining because when you have broken families, the wealth naturally drops. Single mothers have the lowest net worth of anybody in America. Single black mothers are at the bottom. The median net worth of a single black mother in America is about $5. For white women, it's about 42,000. For black women, it's $5. Okay, not even enough to buy a Wendy's value meal. Okay, so ultimately, um, let's circle back with the Sky Jackson thing. Now, Sky Jackson is not in that category. She was a Disney actress. I'm sure she's got a couple $1 million in a trust fund somewhere. And so I'm not here to say, okay, because you had a baby with a rapper, you're gonna just be destitute. You're gonna end up on welfare and all this other stuff. Um, but what I will point to are some legitimate financial theories that you can point to that explain perhaps why the decision by her and the other Disney princess Halle Bailey to have babies with men that are, I'm not going to say beneath them. They're not beneath them, but they don't fit the mold of the brands they were building as Disney actresses. And it's not just in terms of imagery, but there's also a cost in terms of just behavior. You see, because what you got to understand and what we have to accept is that hip hop, for the most part, not all hip hop, but a lot of hip hop, the toxic hip hop, is very, very anti-family. I say this as a black man. Black men are heavily influenced by rap music. I listen to the music. There's nothing in a Lil Wayne song that's going to tell a man to pick one woman, marry her, have children, and take responsibility and make good choices in life. Most of the Lil Wayne music, and Lil Wayne is one of the most popular artists on earth. Most of that music was what I would call the gospel of black male self-destruction. The gospel of black male self-destruction is drink until you vomit every day, take pills so you can die at the age of 38 from kidney failure or something. Um, have sex with as many women as possible so that you can catch STDs and then make sure you spread them to as many women as you can because lots of pretty women are attracted to you because they like the bad boy image and white people put you on TV. So therefore that makes you somehow someone that people want to mate with. Um, be violent, right? Get involved in violence. If somebody talks crazy about you in the club, you pull out your gun and you shoot them. Don't think about the 50 years in prison you're gonna get, where you're gonna be in a jail cell, possibly getting raped by your bunkmate every night. Don't think about all that. You got to keep it P. You got to keep it gangster, right? They used to call it keep it gangster or keep it pimping. Now they call it keeping it P. You keep it P. And somebody gonna be peeing on your forehead in a jail cell in a couple of years. So you gonna keep it P. What else? You can go down the list, right? And of course, women are just these objects that you just sleep with. Respecting women, that just makes you a simp. Why you got to keep it P. Why you want to be a simp, right? So this gospel of black male self-destruction, we know is quite rampant, right? And when I looked at When I saw these two Disney princesses, I'm just gonna call them the Disney princesses. I know Sky was not a princess technically, but they're, the little black girls, they're princesses, right? I think little black girls are just precious and special, and I'm a father of daughters, and our girls are princesses to me, right? So the two Disney princesses, just and this is really traditional. There's probably some biology behind this. They're attracted to the bad boys, and the bad boys of society are the rappers. So both of them go and get pregnant with rappers. As predicted, the relationships end very, very quickly because from a relationship standpoint, most rappers I know, and I know a lot of rappers. I told you about the many hours I spent on the phone with Kanye and Ice Cube and all that. That first of all, rappers are diverse. Let me just say this. So Ice Cube's been married to his wife 30 years. That's what we have in common. We both understand that having a good woman by your side can keep you out of trouble, whatever. What's another one? Killer Mike is a good friend of mine. I talked to Killer Mike the other day. His wife and my wife, we sat there in Atlanta. We had a dinner together and had an amazing time, and they got along really well. And we planned trips we might take and all these other things because I love Killer Mike. I love him. I love his wife. Amazing guy, right? So please don't let me make you think that I believe all rappers are just trash or all rappers are anti-family. That is not something that I'm saying. But what I am saying, and I hope you can agree with me, is that there is kind of this cultural element that is very, very anti-family, which inherently, in my opinion, is a little bit, it's kind of anti-black. There's a big element of hip hop culture that's very anti-black because remember, it's all about who's funding things, right? And I'm the money guy. I understand how money works. So it's the money that drives the culture, right? So this is not black culture. This is culture created by the white and Jewish people that own the record labels who pay money to specific black people to promote specific behaviors that are going to specifically destroy your sons. So there is that undercurrent. There is that gospel of black male self-destruction that's being pushed rampantly. And this has always been part of Mass's plan. There's never been a point in American history where those who own capital and run society ever wanted black men to be strong, independent, and intelligent. That's why there are many people who look at a guy like me and they consider me to be dangerous. They consider men like a Farrakhan to be dangerous. What makes us dangerous? Well, what makes us dangerous is that we actually tell black men, hey, don't kill yourself, don't kill each other, work together, build something great, read a book, save your money, invest, love your family, build black love. 'Cause black love is really the threat. Like when black people loving each other and connecting with each other and building together, that really is the greatest threat to American society. This is I think J. Edgar Hoover talked about it. He said black unity is is the greatest threat to the government that there ever was. He didn't say it in those words, but black unity is a threat. And black unity starts with you loving that one black woman and building that black family with those black children and all this other stuff. So that makes you dangerous, right? So that's why, and that's okay. I'm okay with being on the dangerous list. I want to be a dangerous Negro. Shout out to Trey. I forgot his last name, but he's a Harvard graduate, and he had a brand called Dangerous Negro. And I said, I like that. I want to be a dangerous Negro. So anyway, so to my fellow dangerous Negroes, let me give you some financial theories that relate to Sky Jackson and the other Halle Bailey getting pregnant by rappers and how this can affect you economically. In case they haven't figured it out yet, with their boyfriends going online and saying things that are a little embarrassing. I think that I know in addition to Sky's boyfriend making that video or where he's answering the question like how to get a famous girl pregnant. The other one, I think Hallie's boyfriend did something like he talked about he said something like he said something about how her sex is no good, and he said that being in a relationship is like having a part-time job. Now he's publicly saying you won't let me see my child, right? Just all these things that become brand killers, right? If you're trying to get back in the good graces of Disney, they're gonna be like, we don't want no parts of that. Disney in their contracts, they have morals clauses, and I don't know which one they might have violated, but I'm sure getting pregnant by a rapper probably doesn't fit the Disney image. I don't know, but anyway. Here are some financial theories that you can walk away with that help you understand the context of why these bad relationship choices can impact you economically and really not just impact you, but impact your children, but also impact your generational legacy. One is there is something called the earnings penalty of relationship instability. This is a theory, and a lot of y'all can relate to this. Tell me if you can relate to this. This is a research paper by someone named Addo in 2019. The core idea is that unstable relationships and breakups can significantly disrupt a person's earnings trajectory. Give me a yes if you understand that. Tell me if you've ever seen anybody who has had such a horrible, volatile, crazy relationship that it disrupted their job, it disrupted their ability to achieve their goals. They were distracted from starting that business or making those investments. They weren't able to think about any of that stuff, or they were doing it poorly. And it was because they were in a crazy, stressful relationship. Or maybe your baby mama got mad at you and decided she wants to come to your job and cuss you out in front of your boss. And at that point, there's that old saying that says when two people when two people are fighting, they both look like idiots from a distance. And that's what I think about when I think about that, right? So so basically it says here a bad relationship, especially one that leads to public scandal, um, stress or legal troubles can cause a lost brand deals. Corporations ain't gonna mess with you if you got drama like that. I'd be willing to bet you that if I was to talk to Sky Jackson's manager or Halle Bailey's manager and to say, okay, do you think you've lost any brand deals as a result of the public shenanigans of these rapper baby daddies that these young ladies have? And they would say, absolutely, right? So lost brand deals, reduce work opportunities, and professional setbacks. So basically, if Sky's partner impacts her public image, it may lead people to not want to work with her. And this is, and I can say this is true. I can confirm this as a person who's done partnerships and deals with people in the past. Um, when I am dealing with someone and it looks like you got messiness going on, I'm gonna say, I'm gonna let you go handle that, and maybe we can circle back, maybe not. But corporations don't like drama. They don't like drama. In fact, I have drama. I don't have baby mama drama because I don't. I got one mother of my child. I'm not gonna call her baby mama, but anyway, I will say that when there was one point where I made a comment about Lizzo, and I said. I think it degrades the image of the black woman for these record labels to pay this beautiful, talented young woman to go around and degrade herself and to promote obesity in the black community because obesity kills millions of black people. That's one of those pre-existing conditions that they talked about during the pandemic. And I'm like, why would you, if it's killing us and you think it's bad, why would you promote it? Why are you acting like it's a good thing? It's not a good thing. Like, what's wrong with you? And of course, media, white media did what they do. White people be white. They be, they be acting white. So the Associated Press picked up on it, and the whole narrative became this professor with toxic this sexist professor with toxic masculinity insults Lizzo and Lizzo claps back. You go, girl, clap back. Well, guess what? So let me tell you what happened behind the scenes. Well, what happened behind the scenes was I was going to give a speech to the A.G. Gaston Society down in Birmingham, Alabama. I'd spoken for them the previous year. They loved me the previous year. They loved me so much that they did something that's extremely rare. They were like, "We want you to come back next year." I was like, "Yeah, I'll come back. This is great. I love A.G. Gaston." Well, no. Eventually, I got this note saying, due to circumstances, we've decided to cancel your appearance and da da. Now, mind you, I didn't care. You can keep the money, whatever. And also, they just so you know, you have these contracts where people got to pay money, like half the money in advance. So I pretty much got $5,000 to stay home. I'll take that any day of the week, any day of the week. But the thing was, I did kind of challenge them, and I said, well. I don't need you to invite me to speak because I speak every day to, tens of thousands of people. So that's okay. But I really need you to sort of think about who's paying the bills for your organization. Because I know for a fact, I looked you in the eye and I know that you like me. I know you understand where I'm coming from. And I know that you know that I'm not a stupid man. And I wouldn't say something like this with nasty intent or something without thinking it through. So what happened is I know what happened. Your bosses told you you can't have this Negro come speak at your black organization. I said, and that's the problem with most black organizations. That's the problem with most black organizations. Many black organizations have their bills paid by people who don't care or don't love the black community. And also, you must understand that he who has the gold makes the rules. So the people who are paying your bills are the ones who are going to decide which black people you're allowed to associate with and which ones you cannot. And I said, that's a problem for you. That's not a problem for me because no one chooses my friends. During the pandemic, I stood by Riza Islam, who was literally on the government list, like the disinformation dozen. And I stood by Riza because Riza's a great man. He's an honorable man. He's a smart man. And I wanted to hear what he had to say. I didn't agree with everything he said, but I wanted to hear what he had to say. And nobody told me that Riza can't be my friend. Why? Well, because I don't let Massa pay the bills up in here. That doesn't happen, right? So that was the first thing. Because you know me, I'm a teacher. I had to throw in the little economic lesson, like get your money right, man, so you don't have to bow to these people, right? But then here's the other part of that that's interesting. Check this out. So 2 years later, has anybody, I know Lizzo kind of fell out of favor for a little bit, but has anyone seen the couple things that have happened with Lizzo since that time? Two things happened that I could have easily predicted. One was she faced this massive lawsuit because she had all these shenanigans going on the concert. She was having women shoot bananas out of their hoo-hoos on stage or something crazy like that. That was the allegation, right? And they were suing her and claiming, various forms of harassment and abuse and everything else. And I say, yeah, I expected this because it goes back to what Malcolm said. Remember, I told you Malcolm said that the white man will sell you the liquor bottle and then lock you up for being drunk. So what happened with you is the same thing that happens with a lot of rappers. They convinced you that the more outrageous you are, the more shenanigans you engage in, the more you humiliate your culture and your people, the more money you'll make. The more of a buffoon you are, because I don't think she's a buffoon. I think that it's all an act. Then we're going to give you more money. But the problem is that you can't do those things in a workplace environment and not expect to be sued. Like why in the world is somebody going to their job and being told to shoot a banana out of their coochie cat? Like that don't make no sense. That's crazy. That's insanity. How many of y'all would go to work at UPS and have somebody say, "Well, stick this in your butthole"? You know, like I mean, that's crazy, right? But that's what she got. Go look at the lawsuit. It was great, right? So I remember saying, "See, y'all gotta listen. Y'all instead of listening to whoever y'all listen to, y'all need to listen to black folks like us who understand how the world works." Because these people will suck you into a trap and then blame you for being in the trap. But they'll invite you in. The other thing that happened with Lizzo since then is I don't know if anybody saw this, but she recently reemerged and she's much, much thinner and much healthier and looks absolutely gorgeous. Has anybody seen that? She's probably lost maybe 80 pounds or something. So I said, okay, I get it now. The reason you were upset with what I said is because you understand that I'm right. You saw some truth in what I was saying. And I'm not a stupid man. I don't say things to be false. I say things because that does represent the truth that I'm observing. So you got angry because you wanted the world to work this way. And I said, no, the world actually works that way. And that just, and your first reaction was anger. They call that cognitive dissonance in psychology. So with that being said, though, the thing about it is that overall, when you're really talking about our young people, they have to get advice from us. We're the ones who care about the community. We're the ones who love them. We're the ones who want to see black people prosper, not just short term, but long term also. And what happens though is that when someone becomes famous and they get a lot of money, they say, "Oh, I don't have to listen to old black people anymore because they're not as important as Clive Davis and all these Hollywood types that have given me all this money, or like the guy that's in prison. Well, you know what I'm talking about, the one who's in prison for having sex, raping all the women or whatever. Harvey Weinstein. Like, well, they're not as important as Harvey Weinstein, right? And the criteria that's used is how much money they have. That's it. That's why literally, if you go back 5 years. I remember this guy named Vlad. His name was DJ Vlad. I remember him calling me and warning me about Damon Dash because Damon and I were pretty good friends back then. And he said Dame cussed out Harvey Weinstein in public, and you don't do that in Hollywood. And I was like, who is Harvey Weinstein, and why does this matter? And he's like, well, because blah, blah, blah. But then Dame later on told me, he said, yeah, this guy's doing disgusting things with women, and I told him that he's crazy. Something's wrong with him. And this was before the scandal broke out. Before at that time, Harvey was hugged up with Oprah, hugged up with Hillary Clinton, hugged up with all these celebrities, Barack Obama, all these people loved Harvey Weinstein. And then now it's like, oh, we never liked this guy in the first place. Well, no, you did. You liked him because he had all this money. And you think that because someone has money, that must mean that they're a good person. And that's just simply not true. I say this as a person who studies money for a living. Money is the great deceiver. Money can make you think something that is, things are up when they're down. Money can make you think that blue is green. And at the end of the day, you have to know the power of money without being deceived by the power of money. The power of money can be like a drug and it feels good, but it can also make you a little loopy and stupid and cause you to make bad decisions. Now, with that being said, before I move on, let me just give you all that stock. I told y'all I would give you the stock. So let me give it to you in case y'all got stuff to do because y'all know me. I be talking. I just get in here. The stock is Tuya, Tuya. Somebody type that in the chat. Tuya. This is a company that I researched and I found and I said, okay, I like this. I'm gonna buy it. It's a $4 stock, so it doesn't cost much. So the company is Tuya. Now, let me say this. I did the survey with you guys, and here's the beautiful thing. I mentioned this the other day. I'm super proud of the Black Business School because 88% of you are invested in the stock market. And in case you want to know how significant that is, in across the country, only 62% of all Americans are invested in the stock market. So you all are doing better than white people. You're doing better than Jewish people. You're doing better than everybody. So, and that's what I intended for you. That's the standard I set for you, right? I'm not, I don't care about equality. I'm not trying to play catch up. I don't need you to be equal to anybody. I need you to win. I need you to exceed the standard. Do you understand? So you're exceeding the standard, 88%. Good job. 88% is the percentage that applies to wealthy people. 88% of wealthy people invest in the stock market. Only 20% of people with incomes below 35,000 invest. So good job to you. Way to go. That's Black excellence in a nutshell. Here's the deal though. I want that number to grow. I need that number over 90%. I need that number at 100%. I need y'all to think about investing in the stock market the same way you think about breathing and using the bathroom and drinking water and talking to your kids. So Tuya is a $4 stock that you can start off with. It's one I'm going to buy. I think you should own a bunch of stocks though. Don't just own one, but that's a good place to begin. So if you're not sure how to get started, stuff like that, we have a couple of options. One is if you go to drboycestockmarket.com. We do stock market Tuesdays every week, and you can be a part of that. First month is free. drboycestockmarket.com. And with one membership, you can bring your whole family. So bring your whole family if you want to. And another way is blackwealthmasterplan.com. That's the $5 a day plan that literally shows how anyone can be wealthy by investing $5 a day. So give me a yes if you're going to do this because I really need to know that our meetings are having an impact. I don't want to just sit here and talk. I need to know that something is changing because we're here. I'm sick and tired of Negroes talking and nothing happening. I don't want to do that. I'm not Al Sharpton. We're not going to march and rally and pray and hold hands and saying we shall overcome and then do nothing. No, I need you to take the lead in your life, take the lead in your family, take the lead in your community, and stop letting these people make you think that you're supposed to be in last place. You're not supposed to be in last place. You're supposed to win. That's what we do. Okay. So anyway, there you go. All right. So moving on. Let's get back to the Sky Jackson thing. Let's finish up that lesson. I was mentioning some financial theories that link directly to this idea. You know, her boyfriend, her rapper boyfriend, does this video and how to get a rich person pregnant or a rich girl pregnant, and then you have the other one, the other Disney princess, Halle Bailey, who has the baby daddy, who's also the rapper, who's embarrassing the hell out of her. Here's another theory that you can tie this to. This is there's a research paper written called "Reputational Capital and Brand Erosion." This was by Brun in 1996. I don't know the first name. So here's what it says. The core idea is that reputation is an economic asset that influences financial success, and negative publicity can damage earnings potential. So Sky's marketability likely has been impacted by this idea that people are like, oh, she's a Disney person, but she got pregnant by this rapper who does these disrespectful things online. So that could impact future movie roles and brand deals, things like that. Another theory is there's a research paper called "Opportunity Cost of a Distracting Relationship." That's big. That's a very powerful title, and let me explain why. Opportunity cost. Opportunity cost is an economic concept that refers to the cost of lost opportunities. Now, does anybody know what the word poor stands for? POOR. Give me the acronym in the chat. Anybody know what poor stands for? What does poor stand for? POOR. It's an acronym. Type in the chat. Poor stands for passing over opportunities repeatedly. Passing over opportunities repeatedly. For example, a lot of you, if you'd bought $100 worth of Bitcoin in 2015 or 2014, you'd be very wealthy right now. but you pass over the opportunity. Somebody probably told you about it. You had something else to do, so you spent your $100 at Applebee's, right? If you bought some Nike stock or some Apple stock 20 years ago, it would be worth insane amounts of money right now, right? And it's not like it snuck up on you. It's not like you didn't know. It's not like you didn't know. It's not like you didn't know that Nike was a big company. It's not like you didn't know about Apple. You knew about Microsoft in 1998. Y'all knew what it was. Come on. But we passed over the opportunity because we were distracted or whatever. That's opportunity cost. That is the cost. That is you looking at your imaginary self. That's you looking at the other version of you that would have existed had you taken advantage of the opportunities that were put in front of you. So one of the things that Becker says in this paper, this is written in 1973, he says that there's a massive opportunity cost when you have a relationship that distracts you. Why do we pass opportunities? Well, because we're not looking at the opportunities over here. We're looking over there. So you're distracted. And there's nothing more distracting than a bad relationship. We've talked about this, right? So you keeping it P, you chasing tail, you're chasing love. Maybe because you didn't go get the therapy to help you deal with the fact that you've been hurt since your daddy left, or you didn't go and learn how to be a disciplined and intelligent man and to focus, right? Nobody ever taught you basic things like that Chris Rock movie when the guy said, you can lose money chasing women, but you'll never lose women chasing money, right? So basically, what Becker says in this research paper is that time and energy spent on an unproductive relationship takes away from career advancement. And he specifically references things like drama, y'all know what that is, emotional stress, or legal issues, right? You're in court. Divorce court is a multi-billion-dollar industry. There's a whole documentary by Dr. Drew called Divorce Corp with a P Corp. And he talks about how much money is made from broken families, from people that don't take the time to invest in, like, say, a therapist to negotiate their relationships. So they just try to wing it and figure it all out, and then everything falls apart. And I mentioned to you that it is absolutely wrong and incorrect. I say this as a professor taught at universities. I would say this in class. I am in class. It is absolutely incorrect that you will spend 4 years in college studying for a job, but you don't spend any time studying how to run a damn family. That job is not more important than your family. It is not more important than your happiness. It's not more important than your kids. It's not more important than your mental health. So why in the hell are you going to spend all those damn years, 4 years in college, 2 years in a master's program, another year in a certification program to go get a job, but you won't even do a weekend seminar on how to properly raise the kids, how to properly love your wife, how to properly be there for your husband. You don't study none of that. What, you think that you were just born with that? Were you born in a community that just breeds healthy families? Were you lucky? Are you one of those special Negroes who got a chance to be in a space where there was no trauma, was no drama, was no chaos, was no abuse, what, none of that? Are you one of those people? Are you like, because if you ain't gone through nothing, then you ain't black. I'm kidding. I don't want you to be traumatized, and I don't want that for the kids. But a lot of us have gone through some just crazy stuff. Crazy. I mean, you know what I'm talking about. When you hear these stories like my my sister slept with my husband and my mama put the light bill in my name when I was 4, so my credit was bad when and my daddy left, and then my mama had the 3 boyfriends, and one of them molested, like, just all kinds of crazy, horrible things that we deal with and go through. Um, and the crazy part is that even it goes all the way to the top. I mean, like, I wasn't surprised when Dr. Umar's daughter comes out on the internet and is like, my daddy don't even talk to me. I knew this. I've known Umar for a long time. I just don't say nothing, right? I know stuff that if y'all knew what I knew, y'all be like, oh my God. So none of it surprises me because the chaos goes to every level. Because if you don't have a plan to manage chaos, then chaos will emerge. It naturally emerges. The scientific concept that I became really fascinated with was entropy. It's called entropy. It's like entropy is kind of like when I take an egg that's nice and contained and orderly and I throw it on the floor and then it splatters everywhere. Um, th that's entropy, right? Just the kind of like natural disorder that comes when you don't kind of hold it together and have a plan to manage things. So if I have an egg and I don't have a plan to protect that egg and to keep that egg comfortable, and that's kind of how life is in a way, right? You got this nice little orderly situation. And if you have a plan and you're like, I'm gonna protect this egg, I'm gonna, tiptoe put it in, make sure it's nice and safe and comfortable, then what happens, right? You just take the egg and you're like, I'm gonna throw it, I'm gonna throw it across the room. And next thing you know, it splatters everywhere and you got a mess. And some people treat our families like that egg. You sometimes have men, and I'm gonna talk about Umar now. That's to the side. That's too personal because Umar hasn't liked me for a very long time. I tend to have a way with I don't know. I have a knack for pissing people off. I don't know why. I think I'm a nice guy. But anyway, you have some people who approach their family situation similar to that egg. They don't understand the concept of entropy. So you're 18, 19 years old, your life is together, you've got opportunities everywhere. You're young and healthy and handsome, and the ladies, are around, and you're not making a plan. You're not thinking about like the fact that you're blessed with order in your life. You don't have chaos yet. Same thing. Same thing's true with women. You're young and beautiful, and you're going out with your friends. You look amazing. You don't have baby daddies yet. You don't have relationship drama yet, right? And I think that consciousness, financial consciousness, and just general life consciousness, because this is bigger than just money, but it applies to money, because again, wealth is connected to family and all this stuff. We talked about this. Um, a conscious person says that I have a nice orderly situation here. I must consciously preserve and protect that. Because if I don't, then I will create disorder in my life, and disorder is extremely costly. Because once I take that delicate little egg and splatter it across the floor, I'm gonna have a hell of a mess to clean up. And some people approach their family situations like that. You go get one girl pregnant, splatter an egg. Another girl pregnant, splatter an egg. Another girl pregnant, splatter an egg. And then 20 years later, but you ignore it. You ignore it all because you think that's just what black people do. We just go and make babies and do whatever and have broken relationships and whatever. But then what happens is after a while, the eggs start to, you got splattered eggs all over the kitchen. You've ignored it. You haven't cleaned any of it up. And then it starts to harden and the room starts to stink and it gets moldy and filled with bacteria. And 20 years later, you got a 22-year-old who goes on the internet and says, my daddy ain't shit. Or a 30-year-old son who's like, I haven't seen my father since 1998, right? Or Jay-Z, you saw Jay-Z. Jay-Z's got this kid that looks just like him. And the kid, see, kids grow up and they learn how to use the internet and they learn how to research their parents. And they don't come in with the same, they don't have this sort of reverence for you that people have for you when you were a young, rich rapper. They're like, no, that's my dad. And my dad ain't nothing. My dad's a piece of crap. He never invested in me. I hate this man. And then that child becomes your number one public enemy because you were taught to kind of ignore these things. You were taught to ignore the splattered eggs. And so not that the kids would be called splattered eggs, but you get the point. So ultimately, these things, let's go back to this. Drama, emotional stress, legal issues can be extremely costly, distracting relationships. If you use that term, if you want to use the term Planned Parenthood, I think that it shouldn't just be used in terms of the termination of pregnancy. I think Planned Parenthood should be used in terms of planning, like almost like a wealth plan. If I plan my family, I'm planning my wealth. And a lot of people don't have wealth because they don't plan. Right? They don't plan the family situation. So the family situation, rather than it being an economic accelerator that helps you actually make more money, it becomes an economic destabilizer where it's difficult to build a building in a tornado. Right? It's difficult to build an institution in the middle of constant drama, constant chaos. And what makes it even crazier is that because trauma levels are so high in the black community, sometimes the tornado is inside your own damn head. Some people have to walk around in life with tornadoes in their head, and they just create these destabilized situations. And next thing you know, you're dealing with brokenness, a trail of destruction, a trail of really bad decisions, and it's really hard to build a solid institution in the middle of that. Okay, so ultimately, I would almost say that if again, when I build the Boyce Watkins School for intelligent Black people, one day I'm gonna build it. It'd be like the X-Men have that little academy for like superheroes and stuff. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna build like some academy for like these like intellectual superheroes. I'm gonna teach kids about relationships and how to make smart choices when it comes to building your family and just the value of family. So here's another theory. There's another one. This is one that applies more so to people that have something going on. This says the liability. This paper is called "The Liability of Partner-Driven Scandals." This is by Goffman, 1963. And the core idea is that a person can suffer quote unquote courtesy stigma by association, meaning they bear the consequences of their partner's actions. So if you have a partner like Sky Jackson's boyfriend or baby daddy, he was arrested as recently as 20 is November 2024, then his behavior is going to spill over onto you. They mentioned things like criminal activity, social media beef, misogynistic behavior, etc. So you may get guilt by association, which for someone like Sky, that may take away her ability to get things like luxury endorsements or anything that's family friendly or specific acting roles, because your public perception starts to shift as a result of that. In fact, my father, my father was a police detective for many years. He did a lot of stuff on the police force. I think he could have been the police chief if he'd wanted to be in my hometown of Louisville. And one thing my dad used to say, and I agree with it, is he said that a man who has something to lose has no business affiliating with those who have nothing to lose. Because when you've got something to lose and you are connected and entangled with someone who has nothing to lose, then they're going to pretty much, if they get upset with you, they're going to try to destroy everything you've got. Sometimes the mindset becomes, well, if I can't have you, nobody will. Or if you can't be with me, then I'm going to destroy everything you have going on that's good. That's where you get these crazy stories of I told you within 1 year I heard about two highly successful Black women who were both murdered by their husbands, and their husbands, in both cases, their husbands were men who struggled. I would almost say they were losers, to be honest with you, because only a loser would kill his spouse, right? You break up with them, you don't kill people. But both of these men, in both cases, were men who were not as successful as their wives, and I don't know if it was jealousy or whatever. But I don't think that these ladies would have thought in a million years that this would be my fate. It happens all the time. Same thing is true with men. I see a lot of men that have a lot going on, and they let their guard down in terms of letting different women into their space. And then next thing you know, some woman that doesn't want to let go decides she wants to be disruptive and cause problems, right? So anyway, there's one more theory, there's one more financial theory I want to lay out in terms of a research paper. This was called Wealth Drained Through Legal and Financial Entanglements. This was a paper by Eden and Kafalis in 2005. So they said here the core idea is that choosing the wrong partner can lead to financial loss through lawsuits, child support battles, or reputational damage. It was really hilarious to me to watch. I don't know if you remember when Sherry Shepherd went through that crazy thing with where she agreed to have the baby with the man, and then they broke up, and then she decided to, or they were doing a surrogate or something, and then the surrogate was having the baby, but they broke up, and Sherry was like, I don't want the baby, and then the man was like suing for child support, and everybody was like, how dare he sue for child support, right? Which was kind of funny because it's like, well, I think men have been dealing with child support for a long time, but a lot of women were really offended by this idea of a man wanting child support, or I think Mary J. Blige also paid like spousal support or something like that. And so these financial entanglements, one thing that really speaks to is I think that there is something to be said about being equally yoked to some extent. Like, if you have a lot to lose, I really honestly, this is just Uncle Boyce talking, but this is the finance guy kind of seeing in a certain way. If you've got a lot going on financially, I think you're probably safer dealing with someone who also has something to lose, right? Because what happens, I think, and this is one of the trappings that come, this is why You can't get, this is why being famous and rich and famous is not what it's cracked up to be. I'm not rich and famous, but I'm probably richer than a lot of people, and I'm probably more famous than most. I can go to a lot of places and people recognize me on the street, and there are privileges that come with that. People want to give you free food, they want to just, and talk to you and stuff, and the girls like you and all that. I've talked about that. I don't want to get into that too much because, I love my wife and all that. But anyway, one of the things that I kind of observed is that you are safer, I think, if you're whatever you're doing, if you've got a person that also has something that they're trying to protect, right? Because that person is less likely in most cases to harm or disrupt whatever you have going on because they don't want you to hurt what they've got going on, right? Um, Also, I can tell you that that experience of kind of having more attention than I'd ever had in my life really, that's a part of what fed into me marrying a woman that I've known for, 25 years, right? I know my wife since she was 19. So she didn't, the whole boy, if there was a Boyce Watkins effect, it didn't affect her. We went out, we were walking through Chicago and I hadn't seen her for a while. And she said, "Boyce, why are all these people coming up and talking to you? Why does that guy want to take pictures with you? What's going on? Like, what are you doing?" And that's when I told her about it. And it was and so it's kind of comforting. It's like, okay, so I this is a different situation. This is not someone that sees an opportunity, right? Sometimes and this is true for you. Like when you are building your business and you're building your wealth, you may have someone who sees you as an asset. That's my point. They may see you as an asset. They may say, my life is going to be better because I'm with this man or I'm with this woman now. She's making 300,000 a year. My life is going to improve. And what happens, I think, is that it makes it much harder to like disentangle from people. They may say, no, I'm living the good life right now. I'm not giving this up easily. And so ultimately with a Sky Jackson, I imagine it's like that experience times 1,000. You were on Disney. You have millions of dollars. And I just, if I was her dad, I'd probably be like, come on, like you have a lot to protect. You have a lot to lose and you got a lot of options. If you like the thug culture, find you like one of those wannabe thugs. Like find one of those corporate gangsters. Find one of those guys that just kind of acts, gives you like the edge, but isn't really truly self-destruct. Like he's not really out here getting arrested. He's just fantasizing about it. Like get somebody like that. Why would you pick like this person? Because it's almost, I'm not gonna say it's bottom of the barrel. I'm not gonna put any human being on a lower rung than any other, but I just don't get it. I really don't. But then I do get it. And the point here is that love and attraction and sex are highly irrational, highly emotional, dopamine injected experiences. That's really a lot like taking a drug. That's what it is. I've studied this. I wrote a book called Financial Lovemaking 20 years ago. It's on my website if you want to buy it, drboycebooks.com. But anyway, when I wrote that book, I said, "Oh my God, I get it now. Now I know why people make so many crazy relationship decisions and they destroy their lives. It's because it feels so good. Sex feels really good. Love feels really good, right? Meeting a new person feels really good. It's literally like having a drug injected into your bloodstream. And if you don't have consciousness and awareness, or if you are not healed and you're driven by trauma responses to every decision you make, you're going to be in big trouble because trauma responses will draw you to the drug. That's why a lot of traumatized people, that if you look at a lot of drug addicts, they're traumatized people. Why? Well, because the drug heals the pain instead of doing the work. You didn't want to sit with the therapist. You didn't want to go to the Ayana Van Zant, healing weekend. You didn't want to sit with Dr. Alicia, my wife. So you turn to the dope because it numbs you up and it gives you a temporary feel good that gets you through the day. But you've let this man inside your body and he's bringing a whole lot of baggage that you don't want to deal with, or he's bringing spiritual baggage that is going to be really hard to manage and process later on, or this woman that you're hanging out with, you can't trust a big button to smile, right? Like some of those girls are really poison, and you don't know that. You haven't sat back and reflected, right? And this is where consciousness, I'm gonna tell you, the older I get, the more convinced I am that people who are conscious, who meditate, who take the time to breathe, step back and think about their actions, are 1,000 times more likely to be successful than people who just operate on instinct, trauma responses. No, you better never going crazy on people, just whatever, ruining relationships, choosing the wrong relationships, right? Just all this stuff, right? It's like it's got to be painful and crazy. It's horrible. It's like your own. It's like you're making your own horror movie inside your head, and that horror movie becomes your life, and it translates right to your finances. Making horror movies is expensive. Your film production budget is very high. So you've been producing this movie called The Horrible Life of Cindy Wilson, and the budget has been $1 billion. You spent all your money making this movie. So I would say that, going back to what I said earlier, that success requires a plan, wealth requires a plan, stability requires a plan. That concept of entropy, the egg. I got this egg. It's delicate. That egg is my life. I got to make a plan to protect this egg. That means not only am I not gonna just grab the egg and get mad and throw it at the wall, but if I see people coming into the kitchen who are gonna bump me and bump into me and knock this egg out of my hand, I'm gonna move away from those people. I might go in a room by myself. I'm only letting you in the room if I vetted you properly to make sure you're gonna protect this egg and you ain't gonna come in here causing no problems. So a lot of times it's a multi-pronged kind of thing, right? It's dealing with the chaos inside of you that might cause you to deliberately destroy the egg, but it's also you having the awareness to look around in your surroundings and see, okay, who is coming in here that might actually create chaos where there was none? And how am I going to react to those people? And do I even want them around? So choosing your relationships wisely is one of the most critical dimensions of wealth building that there ever was, right? You choose the right ones, avoid the wrong ones, assess everything constantly, and then more importantly, start with that healing process so that you don't become your own worst enemy. Because that's what happens, I think, with trauma. It's like and I'm a traumatized person. That's how I know, because I can just think in my life about so many times where my trauma responses have cost me a lot. It hasn't just cost me money. Money's the easy part. It's cost me things that money cannot buy, things I will never get back in a million years. So my goal is to heal so that I can learn how to preserve and protect the things that matter to me, starting with my wife and my family. I don't run up in there talking crazy to that woman because I want to preserve that. I apologize to the kids when I get out of line. I want to preserve those relationships. I want to preserve my relationship with you. I want to protect my wealth. So I try my best to be the conscious voice and not the traumatized voice. But that's a process, and you have to be committed to that. So commit to the process, whatever that means for you, whatever that means for you. All right. Thank you for listening. I hope this was helpful. I hope that you benefited from this discussion. I hope that this added some value to your life. Um, Reminder number one, the stock I mentioned earlier was Tuya, Tuya, Tuya. I don't know if the stock's going to do well. This is not investing advice, but I am going to buy some of this stock, Tuya. Also, there's a list of financial stocks that I sent out to you guys a few days ago. I'll send something else out soon. Make sure you're on the text list for this class. Text the word morning to the number 87948. So text morning to 87948. Also, I decided to create something that you may be interested in. A lot of you were really excited about buying my books and stuff cheaply so you can resell them as you educate your family and the community on wealth concepts. So we decided to coin it. We're calling it something. I said, yeah, why don't we have like these black wealth ambassadors, right? So a black wealth ambassador would be someone who believes in the idea of black wealth, who is one willing to teach others about black wealth, who is interested in spreading messages related to things that are going to make our community strong. And the reason it's important, and I'm impressing this upon you and asking you to consider this, is because if we don't do it, who's going to do it? We know white folks ain't going to do it. 60% of black people ain't gonna do it, right? And then then 20% of the people who say they're gonna do it ain't gonna follow through. So I'm really looking for the talented 10th and the talented 20th. I'm looking for people that that understand the right ideas and will follow through on the things they say they're gonna do. So this is something that I think we can do, and it's something that I want to support you in. So here's the deal. It's like this. If you want to buy our stuff, or any of our books and materials, as a Black Wealth Ambassador, we will give you a discount that no one else gets. Like we'll give you a special code. You can buy stuff super, super cheap, and you can make that into your business. Like literally everything that I offer, in terms of our workbooks for kids, our flashcards, all kinds of stuff, we'll offer them to you at a really, really steep discount so that then you can set up shop. Maybe you start like a little school in your church, or you a community group, or maybe you just do a family wealth club, or whatever it is, whatever it is, kids on your street, whatever you want to do, and we become your supplier. Right, we become the dope man. So this is good dope, right? This, and we supply you with stuff, and then you can resell things, and make a profit for yourself, make money for yourself, so you can feed your family while you're doing this. And then on top of that, we're building an economy around education. You can build an economy around education. So this is my pitch to you to consider. And so if you want to be a Black Wealth Ambassador, you can actually text the word wealth to the phone number 87948. So if you text wealth to 87948, I'll send you more information. I'll send you links and stuff where you can get stuff at a discount, and you can just rock it out how you want. And I'll share ideas on ways that you might want to set up shop. And I would just love the idea of us kind of having these Black Wealth chapters all around the world. Right, literally, and if I'm in your city and I'm available, like I'll stop in, or maybe pop in a Zoom or something, and support you and endorse you, and help you out in whatever it is you're trying to do. And more importantly, I want to see you have money in your pocket as a result of your affiliation with us. I don't want you to just get the wealth of knowledge. I want you to have actual money so you can free yourself. Maybe you want to get off the corporate plantation or whatever. Like I want you to be financially secure, and I want you to be economically better. In fact, on this survey, the result that I was most proud of is that 78% of you said that your income and wealth has increased as a result of you coming to class. I said, touchdown. That's what we're trying to do. I want your life to be different because you're here. I don't want you. This ain't no bootleg pastor stuff where, you got those churches where they have you screaming and jumping up and down, but then your life is still miserable when you leave. I'm not trying to do that. I want you to say, okay, my life is different here, here, and here because of these things that I learned, and because of this community that I'm a part of. So if you want to be a Black Wealth Ambassador, last part, if you want to join, just text the word wealth to the phone number 87948, and I'll send you some stuff right away. We can get it cracking. All right, guys. God bless you. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you all tomorrow. And I hope your lives are wonderful, and I hope you have a great weekend. See you soon. Bye-bye. Been a wonderful day. Welcome to drboycetv.com, the home for intelligent Black people. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins, and I hope you guys are having a great day. Today, I wanted to talk about something that I saw that was really interesting. I don't know how many of you saw it, but Stephen A. Smith, apparently he and LeBron James had this confrontation that was captured by the media, where basically LeBron was very upset because Stephen A. had been saying things about his son Bronny. Stephen A. was doing his job as a journalist and giving his honest assessment of Bronny James' qualifications. And as you know, if you know anything about basketball, you know that Bronny James has had a hard time. He's really just not really, he's got a big shoes to fill. His father is one of the greatest basketball players of all time. Some have even argued that he might be even goatier than the GOAT, which was Michael Jordan, and another GOAT, Wilt Chamberlain. And it's easy to make that argument because he's been amazing. His staying power has been extraordinary. And all that pressure kind of goes on to the son. Now, unfortunately, LeBron likes to have kids he had kids with a very short woman. And so as a result, his son, Bronny, is not as tall as him and as strong as him. I think his son's maybe 6'2", and LeBron's about 6'6", 6'7", 6'8", something like that. I guess 6'8", 6'7", 6'8". So anyway, long story short, it's been kind of messy. So Stephen A. Smith goes to a Lakers game, and basically when he's at this Lakers game, he gets confronted by LeBron. LeBron kind of walks up to him. He's pretty mad. He's barking at him, yelling at him, everything else. And of course, that's going to get a lot of attention. And Stephen A. addressed it and did what he did. I didn't watch his address, but I did see what happened here. And I wanted to kind of lay it out in terms of just, first of all, I thought it was interesting because I'm interested in what's going on with black men. These are two black men that have accomplished a lot in their respective fields, and I have a lot of respect for them. I don't know Stephen A. very well, but I've been on the show a couple of times. When he had the show, quite frankly, with Stephen A. Smith, he had me on. He was very nice to me. And let me just tell you, so here's what I will say that I saw. So when LeBron confronts Stephen A., obviously this was a father defending his family. This is a father who was very upset, perhaps because Stephen A. said something that just really upset him and really got under his skin. And he kind of showed that he kind of played his hand that way, which tells me that he's probably very sensitive to what what people are saying about his son. And he has a respect for Stephen A.'s words because I'm sure a lot of people say things about his son. Stephen A. wasn't the only one who was talking about the fact that Bronny did not appear to be as qualified as other NBA players. And this is an interesting conversation because it feeds back into something that's happening in our country in a more broad context. Right now in Washington, you had President Trump and his crew. They kicked out all the DEI programs. They got rid of all of that because their argument is that this is a type of privilege that people have been given and they did not earn it. America has not been a meritocracy, and we got to make America great again by making it a meritocracy. But what the Trumps and the others will never confess to is that America really isn't a meritocracy in many cases. America does have privilege in a lot of spaces, not just with things like DEI, but also there is a wealth privilege. Let me know if you understand what I'm saying. There's a wealth privilege, and Trump and his kids, they get a wealth privilege. We know that. Bronny got a wealth privilege, right? So Bronny, I'd be curious to know. Give me a yes or no. How many of you think that Bronny would be in the NBA if his father was not LeBron James? Give me a yes or no if you think that he would still be there, if you think he's good enough on his own where he could have been a kid out of the hood. If he started where his daddy started off, how many of you think that Bronny would be in the NBA? I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no just because I'm a basketball fan and I got eyes in my head. Thank God for those. And I see that this kid is just not really he wasn't even that good in college. And let's just keep it honest. He wasn't that great in college. But also the other thing too is my heart goes out to the family because, remember Bronny had a heart attack and I can't imagine how a father would feel when you're already feeling guilty because you can't spend time with your son the way you want to because you're on the road all the time chasing your own dream. And then your son has a heart attack. I mean, he almost died. So I think LeBron is doing what any father would do. In fact, give me a yes or no on this. If any of you were LeBron James, would you hook up your son? Would you give your son a chance to play in the NBA if that's what he wanted to do? Yes or no? How many of y'all would do that for your own kid if he was doing his best, trying his hardest and showing up for practice every day? I know I would. I would totally do it, right? I'd be like, son, you get to move to the front of the line because I paid the dues in advance for you. And this is something that I think every black person should embrace is the idea of black privilege. If it's okay for the Trumps to take care of their kids, Barron Trump's going to be at the front of the line. You know that his daughter, is it Ivanka? She's going to be at the front of the line. You know that Donald Jr. is going to be at the front of the line. You know that even his stupid son, Eric, is going to be at the front of the line. So if all of his kids can go to the front of the line because of their wealth and their power, then why can't Bronny, right? Why can't Bronny get into the NBA because of who his daddy is? I saw nothing wrong with that. And here's the thing, too. I really think that anybody in here who has kids, I think you should think about this, right? I think you should think about the fact that you get to spend a lifetime working for something, whatever that is. And whatever you work for, in my opinion, should be something that gives black privilege to your child. That might be something as basic as buying some shares of stock. If you just bought a few $1,000s worth of stock back in 2001 and just did that consistently every year, your kids could inherit massive amounts of black privilege where they would have so much wealth that they would never have to go beg a white man for a job or a black man for a job for that matter, or any man for a job. They would be able to be economically independent. So I think that we as black people have to be careful about getting caught up in this idea that we don't deserve to have privilege and access because of what somebody did before us. Actually, that's the way the world's supposed to work. The world's supposed to work in such a way that the parent is able to block for the child. The parent is able to clear the path for the child. And this is one of the reasons why this whole working for the white man culture has to be sort of questioned for black people, because you can work at that factory job your whole life and you can't pass that job down to your children. Tell me if you get what I'm saying. Your kids are not going to inherit that job. I don't care if you gave 45 years to Ford. They're going to take your job, and they're your little black job. You call it a black job, but really it's not a black job. It's a white job in blackface. You understand? It's a white owned black job, and the owner takes that job right back once you die at your desk and you can't do the job anymore. So you can't pass that to your kids. But what you can pass to your kids, you can pass from real estate to your kids. Give them some black privilege off of that. You can pass them some shares of stock. We talk about stock all the time. You can pass that down to your kids. If you got a little business, even a little raggedy business, maybe you haven't done much with it, but you're taking pride in it. You've done your best. You poured into it. Well, you bring your child to work every day. You can give the business to the child, where they don't have to go through the rat race of chasing jobs. They could say, I got a business. In fact, my brother, I didn't get to give a business to my kids, although they're going to be wealthy when I'm gone. I got about one biological child, and then I have some other kids I've scooped up along the way. They're all going to be rich if something happens to me. But I know that with my brother, I felt really proud of the fact that when he went to Cornell, I was able to help him create a business, so that when he left Cornell, he didn't go to a single job interview. He said, why would I go work for somebody when I've had the power of running my own organization? Right. So this black privilege is something that I think all of us should embrace. I don't think there's anything wrong with what LeBron did. And I think that that's fine. Now, I'm going to go to another side of this argument, because this is an economic conversation. I think this is a generational wealth sort of discussion. But before I do that, if y'all could do me a favor, please hit the thumbs up button. Thumbs up, share, subscribe. This podcast is also on Spotify. So if you look up my name on Spotify, you'll find plenty of discussions about wealth and black economics on Spotify. And also, just so you know, every single morning at 10 a.m., we teach finance in the Black Business School. We have a class that's 100% free. It's my financial consciousness class. I'm a finance professor. My PhD's in finance. And every single morning, 7 days a week, I come in and I talk to my people about black economics. That's what we do. We're doing the Booker T thing. We're doing the Marcus Garvey thing. We're doing the Malcolm X thing. So you're going to get Booker, Marcus, and Malcolm every single morning. So if you blickety black like that and you care about your paper, then come to us in class, because I got a whole PhD in finance. And I can tell you this, we just took a survey, and 78% of the students in the Black Business School told me in the survey that their money is higher because they've been coming to class. Now, you can't say that about the college you went to. You can't say that about a lot of universities out here. But literally, we put money in your pocket and we get the job done. So feel free to join us. You can go to drboyceelevate.com. You can also just text the word morning, MORNING, to the phone number 87948. So text morning to 87948. Now, here's the thing. So if you talk about LeBron and his confrontation with Stephen A., which I totally get it. Stephen A. was talking about his son. He's mad about it. I totally get why LeBron has gifted his son opportunities that other kids won't get. I get all that. I'm not mad at him for that at all. But here's where I also understand where Stephen A. is coming from. LeBron has to understand that to whom much is given, much is expected. You got to understand that if you're putting your son in the spotlight and you're putting that crazy, and somebody's choosing to put that much pressure on him to literally play in the shadow of arguably the greatest basketball player of all time, definitely top 3, top 4, top 5. Well, then you know what? Some criticism is going to come with it. I don't know if y'all saw what I saw. I mean, Bronny's doing okay in the G League, but the G League is not the NBA. The G League is that's like, little league, like for NBA players. And Bronny was not doing so good. So, with that capability comes some scrutiny, and you can't expect Stephen A., if he's trying to be a journalist with integrity, you cannot expect him to get up there and lie for you just because he knows you. You can't expect him to just pretend like he doesn't see the fact that your son was making a lot of mistakes on the basketball court. The idea that he would expect that Stephen A. would just not talk about it, it would be absolutely ridiculous. So So while I think you could argue, I was trying to figure out, I was like, who was over the line? Was it Stephen A or was it LeBron? I'm going to say LeBron was over the line. LeBron, bro, you should know this. You should understand this. This comes with the territory. You brought your son in the frying pan. The frying pan is hot. You know how hot it is. You know what the scrutiny looks like. If he was great, they would be giving him praise. He sucks, or he doesn't suck as bad as he used to. So I'm not going to say he sucks now. He doesn't suck now. But before, I'm a basketball fan, and I was like, oh, Lord, this ain't good. Man, why are you playing basketball like your dad? That's a lot of pressure. It's like Michael Jordan's sons. Did y'all see where Michael Jordan's sons, and they're not even as tall as their father. I think they're like 6'1" and 6 foot. I would hate to be a 6-foot genetic clone of Michael Jordan with like inferior basketball genetics coming from my mother. They date they have kids with these little short women. So the 6'6", 6'7" guy has a baby that is like that grows to be 6'1", and you're 6'1" trying to stand in the shadow of a guy who's 6'6", 6'7", 6'8". Just being 6'7", 6'8" by itself means you won the genetic lottery, right? So it would be much more fair to these poor kids if their daddies dated tall women. Like they need to stop shopping in the short girl section for a woman. They go to the WNBA, get you a big chick. Because same thing with Shaquille O'Neal's kids. I think his kids are tall, but they're not big like him. Because why? Because Shani is so small, you can put her in a cardboard box. So to me, I just sit here and I'm just doing the math in my head, and I'm thinking, God, I would hate to be one of those kids, because you want to do what your dad did. Like, you want to follow in your father's footsteps. But if I'm following in my dad LeBron's footsteps, you know what I do? I say, you know what? I'm going to be the best damn sports agent to ever get into the sport. Or I'm going to be the best baseball player ever. I would be literally playing baseball. I would be playing golf. So I admired the courage that they had to follow in their footsteps. But I think that you're asking for trouble, because every time you play, they're going to compare you to your father, which is just a terrible place to be. The only athlete I can think of that matched up to their dad might have been Marvin Harrison Jr., who played for my Buckeyes, Ohio State. Layla Ali, who's a friend of mine, who's the daughter of the great Muhammad Ali, who's also from Louisville, like I am. I can't think of too many people who can do that. That's hard to do when your dad is the greatest ever, or one of the greatest ever in the sport. I just think that that's a lot of pressure. I'd be curious to hear the family conversations at the dinner table about how you decided to play basketball like your daddy. I just kind of feel like there might be other things you could do, but hey, who am I to judge? It ain't my right to do that. But I will say this. One of the challenges that LeBron is obviously facing is there is a constant ongoing conversation, particularly when you talk about economics when it comes to nepotism. Oh, thank you, Roy. Steph Curry. Yeah, that's right. Steph Curry is a better. His father, Dell, was a great shooter. And his daddy got his sons because Steph has a brother, and both of them shoot better than their father. And their father was one of the best shooters in the NBA. So Steph Curry is an exception as well. But anyway, there's an ongoing conversation when you talk about economics, and it relates to nepotism and versus meritocracy. And one thing I'll say is that in America, when you talk about economic legacies and economic impact and economic opportunities, nepotism trumps merit almost every damn time. Nepotism and family connections and all that trumps everything else. So one of the things I would ask you to do is to consider, what advantage am I going to give my child that's going to allow them to benefit from the fact that we do live in a society where nepotism runs the day? Like, what am I going to do? Or am I just going to leave? Am I just going to leave my kids out here hoping for the best? Am I going to let them struggle out here? Or am I going to position them so that all the hard work that I do is going to give them an advantage and an opportunity that others will not have? And I can tell you this, if you're buying stock consistently and you have assets to pass to the kids, you're giving them nepotism. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you're acquiring real estate, and doing your best to do that, and you pass that to the kids, pass some cash flow down, that's nepotism. If you're running that raggedy little business and putting all your blood, sweat, and tears into the business and training your kids to take over, or have some kind of cash flow coming, or some opportunity where you created a job for them, that is nepotism, and that's Black privilege, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think everybody on earth, every Black person who cares about their kids, should at some point aim to give their children some degree of Black privilege. If you can't give your child Black privilege, I want to ask you, what are you doing? In fact, I'm gonna tell you, what you're doing. If you're not leaving black privilege to your children, you know what you're doing? You're contributing to white privilege. That's what you're doing, because you're getting up and you're going to work every day at some job with some company owned by a person who is not black, and every hour that you put into that job, you are adding to their ability to have some degree of privilege that they can pass to their kids. Or it's either the owner of the company or the shareholders in the company, because the shareholders own stock. Stock can be passed to children, and that's how America works. So give your kids some black privilege. I'm not mad at LeBron for doing this. I think, especially with what that family's gone through, and I'm so proud of LeBron. He's really been a model citizen. He's loved his wife all these years. He's been responsible for a family. He's raised his kids. I like that a lot. I really admire that. I know that everything beneath the surface is probably more complex than it looks out from the outside in. But I can just tell you that I really like LeBron James overall, and I admire him. And Stephen A. Smith is fine too. I don't have no problem with him. He's interesting. He's more. I probably like LeBron more than Stephen A. But I don't dislike Stephen A. either. I think that they're both smart guys, and I think it was an interesting conversation to be had. All right, guys. So anyway, I'm going to get out of here. I just wanted to come in and talk about that really quick, because I think that there's something there in terms of a black conversation that could be had around this idea, economic nepotism and black privilege, and passing that to your kids. And so I hope this was helpful to you. And also tomorrow morning, we're going to meet for class. And also, if you like stock options, I'm really good with stock options. We actually, in the Black Business School, have a new stock options program. It's called COIN. It stands for Certified Options Income Network. And so if you want to join our next cohort for COIN, we start next week, March 14th. You can go to drboycecoin.com, drboycecoin.com, and you can set an appointment and apply and talk to someone to see if it's a fit for you. So feel free to go to drboycecoin.com. All right, guys. So anyway, I'm out of here. Tomorrow morning, we'll meet again for our financial consciousness training. And also the other thing too, I'm super, super proud. I want to mention that when we asked the students that were in the morning class, I said, how many of you would recommend this class to a friend? And the survey, literally 99.1% of the students said they would recommend it to a friend. So if you want to join us for class, we're really good at what we do. I think we're the best HBCU in America, because we focus on black economics and building wealth in our community, building ownership in our community, having the means of production, and actually having real economic power. So if you want to join us, just text the word morning to the number 87948 on your phone. Text morning to 87948. And we can also talk tomorrow about what's going on with Trump and whether or not Trump may cause a recession and what's happening right now with the economy. There's a lot going on with that, and I'll discuss some of that tomorrow. So I'll see you guys. Have a good night. God bless you, and thank you guys for listening, and I will talk to you soon. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.